single mom kissed a stranger to escape her ex-husband, not knowing he was a millionaire who would change her life. Hello, viewer. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. Clara, we need to talk about Maya. The voice came from behind, smooth as oil and twice as slippery. Clara Evans felt her shoulders tense, her breath catching in her throat as she turned to face the man she had spent 3 years trying to forget. Daniel Thompson stood too close, invading the careful space she had learned to guard. His smile was the same one that had charmed her a decade ago, before she understood what lived beneath it. The gallery hummed with polite conversation around them, the clink of wine glasses and murmur of art appreciation, but Clara heard only the rushing of blood in her ears. "There is nothing to discuss," she said, keeping her voice steady. Her fingers gripped her small purse, knuckles white. "The custody agreement is clear. Is it?" He stepped closer, and she stepped back, her spine meeting the cool wall. A painting hung beside her head, a bird trapped in an elaborate golden cage. She had been staring at it moments before, drawn to its beauty and its sadness. "Because I have been thinking. Maya needs stability, a proper home, not some rental cottage where her mother barely scrapes by." The words landed like blows. Clara forced herself to meet his eyes, those hazel eyes that had once made her feel safe and now made her skin crawl. She has stability. She has love. She has everything she needs. Does she? Daniel's voice dropped lower, intimate in a way that made her stomach turn. "Because from what I hear, you are struggling, late on rent, taking on extra work. Hardly the environment for a 6-year-old girl." He paused, letting the implication sink in. "I could give her so much more, Clara. You know I could. A real home, security, everything you cannot provide." Her throat tightened. The walls of the gallery seemed to close in, the carefully curated art blurring at the edges of her vision. This was not a chance encounter. Daniel never did anything by chance. He had found her here, cornered her here, chosen this public place to remind her how powerless she was. "You are not taking my daughter." The words came out fierce, but her hands were shaking. "Our daughter," he corrected, his smile sharpening. "And I am not taking her. I'm simply reconsidering our arrangement. My lawyer thinks we have a strong case for primary custody. You understand, I hope. It is nothing personal, just what is best for Maya." The panic rose like floodwater. Clara could feel it, drowning her, stealing her air, her words, her strength. She had thought she was safe. 3 years since the divorce. 3 years of building a small, careful life. 3 years of teaching Maya that they were fine, just fine, the two of them against the world. And now he was here, threatening to tear it all apart. Her eyes darted around the gallery, desperate for escape, for help, for anything. That was when she saw him, a man standing alone in front of a different painting, tall and still, wearing a suit that spoke of quiet wealth. He was studying the art with focused attention, his profile serious, almost melancholy. A stranger. A complete stranger. The thought came sudden and wild. Desperate measures for desperate times. Clara pushed away from the wall, from Daniel, and walked directly toward the stranger. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was insane. This was beyond insane. But Daniel was watching, and she needed him to see that she was not alone, not vulnerable, not his to control anymore. She reached the man just as he turned slightly, perhaps sensing her approach. Up close, she could see silver threading through dark hair at his temples, lines of care around grey eyes that widened in surprise as she stopped directly in front of him. "Please," she whispered, her voice desperate and low. "Please, just pretend you know me." And then, before courage could abandon her completely, before reason could reassert itself, Clara rose on her toes and kissed him, The stranger went rigid with shock. For one horrible second, she thought he would push her away, embarrass her, expose her desperation for what it was. But then, as if some instinct took over, his hand came to rest on her waist, steadying her, and he kissed her back. It was not passionate, it was not practiced. It was the kiss of two people improvising, playing roles they had not rehearsed. But to anyone watching, it looked real enough. When she pulled back, her cheeks burning, his grey eyes searched her face with concern that seemed genuine. Over his shoulder, she could see Daniel standing frozen, his expression thunderous with humiliation and rage. "Thank you," she breathed to the stranger, her voice barely audible. "I am so sorry. Thank you." The man's hand was still on her waist. His touch was gentle, nothing like Daniel's possessive grip. "Are you safe?" he asked quietly, his voice a low rumble. "Should I call someone?" "No, Clara glanced past him again. Daniel was already walking away, his stride angry and purposeful. "I just needed... He is my ex-husband. He was threatening me. I panicked." The stranger's expression darkened. "I see." He did not let go of her yet, as if sensing she might crumble without the support. "Did it work?" "I think so." Clara stepped back, instantly mourning the loss of steadiness. Her legs felt like water. I am so sorry. That was completely inappropriate. I do not know what I was thinking." "You were thinking you needed help," he said simply. His eyes held no judgment, only a quiet understanding that made her want to cry. "I am glad I could provide it. However, unexpectedly..." Clara managed a shaky laugh. "That is a generous way to put it." She pressed her hand to her forehead, feeling the tremor in her fingers. "I should go. Before I embarrass myself further." "Wait." He reached into his jacket, pulling out a simple business card. "Please, in case you need anything, if he bothers you again." She took the card, her fingers brushing his. The name printed there was elegant and understated, Dawson Blackwood. A phone number, nothing else. "I really am sorry," she said again, already backing away. "Thank you for playing along." "You did not have to do that." "Yes," Dawson Blackwood said, his grey eyes holding hers with an intensity that made her breath catch for a different reason entirely. "I did." Clara turned and walked toward the exit, forcing herself not to run. She could feel his gaze following her, could feel the weight of the card in her hand. At the door, she could not help but glance back. He was still watching. And for just a moment, in the midst of her panic and embarrassment, she felt something she had not felt in years. Safe. The morning light filtered through thin curtains, doing little to soften the reality of Clara's small rental cottage. She sat at the kitchen table. Bills spread before her like accusations. Electric, water, groceries, the illustration deadline looming. Math that never quite added up, no matter how many times she rearranged the numbers. "Mommy, can I have the purple crayon?" Clara looked up to find Maya at the dining room table, golden curls catching the morning sun, bent over her drawing with the fierce concentration only a 6-year-old could muster. Her daughter, her entire world, compressed into 3 feet of stubborn determination and endless questions. "Of course, sweetie." Clara rose, grateful for the interruption, and retrieved the purple crayon from the scattered collection across the table. Maya's artwork covered most of the available surface area, a riot of color depicting what appeared to be a princess riding a dragon. "What are you working on?" "A picture for Miss Henderson," Maya said, not looking up. "She said we should draw something brave." Clara studied her daughter's creation, the princess's face set in determination, the dragon fierce but friendly. "That is very brave indeed." "Mommy?" Maya's crayon paused. "Why does Daddy want me to live with him?" The question landed like a stone in still water. Clara sank into the chair beside her daughter, choosing words carefully. Maya was sensitive, too perceptive for her age. She noticed things. worried about things that should not concern a first grader. "Your father loves you," Clara said, which was not exactly a lie. Daniel loved Maya the way he loved his expensive watch, as something that reflected well on him. "But you live with me because that is what we all decided was best. But he keeps saying I should stay with him more." Maya's blue eyes, so like her father's, looked up with worry. "Did I do something wrong?" "Oh, baby, no." Clara pulled Maya into her lap, breathing in the scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. "You did nothing wrong. Grown-ups just... We have complicated things to figure out sometimes. But you are perfect. You are my perfect girl, and nothing is going to change that." Maya relaxed against her, apparently satisfied for now. Clara held her, staring at the bills that would not pay themselves, at the illustration due by Friday that she had barely started, at the phone that sat silent on the counter. She had not called the number on the business card. Of course she had not. What would she even say? "I need to take you to school soon," Clara said finally, releasing Maya with reluctance. "Go brush your teeth." Maya scampered off, and Clara returned to the kitchen table, to the relentless mathematics of survival. She was good at her work when she had time to focus. Her children's book illustrations had won recognition, small awards that meant a great deal to her and very little to creditors. But the pay was modest, the deadlines merciless, and Daniel's monthly child support payments came with strings she tried desperately not to pull. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rachel Martinez, her oldest friend. "How did it go last night? Did you meet the author?" Clara's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She had not told Rachel about the encounter, about the kiss, about the stranger with kind eyes and a steadying hand. It felt too surreal, too absurd to put into words. "The author was lovely," she typed back. "Very interested in the book project. More soon." Another lie. Or perhaps an omission. The same thing, really. She drove Maya to school in her aging sedan, listening to her daughter chatter about her friends, about the upcoming art show, about whether dragons preferred cookies or cake. Normal, beautiful, 6-year-old concerns. Clara clung to them like life preservers. "Have a wonderful day, sweetheart," she said, kissing Maya's forehead at the drop-off line. "I love you to the moon and back." "And to the moon and back again," Maya finished, their ritual complete. She grabbed her backpack, emblazoned with cartoon characters Clara could not afford to replace, and disappeared into the stream of children flowing toward the school entrance. Clara watched until she could no longer distinguish Maya's blonde head from the others. Only then did she allow herself to feel the exhaustion, the fear, the weight of Daniel's threats from the night before. He had meant every word. She knew him well enough to understand that. She pulled out her phone, staring at it for a long moment before opening a search engine. Her fingers typed before she could stop them. Dawson, Blackwood, Austin, Texas. The results flooded her screen. Billionaire philanthropist. Blackwood Foundation. Estimated net worth $2.3 billion. Charity work spanning healthcare, education, social services. A photo of him at some gala, looking elegant and distant and nothing like the man who had stood still while a desperate stranger kissed him. Clara's hands shook. She put the phone down, pressed her palms against her eyes. This was worse than she thought. The stranger who had saved her was not just wealthy. He was impossibly, unreachably wealthy. The kind of person who lived in a different world entirely. And she had kissed him. The laugh that escaped her was half hysterical. Of course, the one moment of wild desperation in her carefully controlled life would involve a billionaire. The universe had a sense of humor, apparently. She looked at the business card, still tucked in her purse. She should throw it away, forget the whole embarrassing incident. Return to her regular life of bills and deadlines and protecting her daughter from the ex-husband who saw her as property to be reclaimed. But she did not throw it away. Instead, she tucked it carefully into her wallet, behind the photo of Maya, where it would be safe, just in case. Across town, in a penthouse that overlooked the city like a throne room, Dawson Blackwood stood at a floor-to-ceiling window and thought about a woman with auburn hair and terrified eyes. He had not been able to stop thinking about her. The desperation in her whispered plea, the courage it must have taken to approach a stranger, the fear he had seen in her face when she looked at her ex-husband. And then, the kiss. Dawson touched his lips absently, remembering. It had been years since anyone had kissed him, and never like that. Not out of desire or expectation, but out of pure, wild need. She had needed him to save her, and for those few seconds he had been useful, necessary, real. "Mr. Blackwood?" His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Your 10 o'clock is here." "Send them in," he said, not moving from the window. The city spread below him, thousands of lives intersecting, colliding, connecting. Somewhere down there the woman was going about her day, worrying about her daughter, dealing with her ex-husband, probably never thinking about the stranger she had kissed in a moment of desperation. Thomas Bradford entered, his old friend and attorney, carrying a briefcase and wearing his usual expression of amused concern. "You look terrible," Tom said cheerfully. "Did you sleep at all?" "I slept fine." Dawson turned from the window, returning to his desk and the Foundation reports waiting there. Numbers that represented programs, people, lives changed or saved. All from a careful distance. "What do you have for me?" "The healthcare initiative proposal, the literacy program expansion, the usual." Tom set down the briefcase but did not open it, studying Dawson instead. "What happened?" "Nothing happened." "You are a terrible liar. You have been for the 20 years I have known you." Tom settled into the chair across from the desk, making himself comfortable with the ease of old friendship. "Talk to me." Dawson hesitated, then found himself speaking anyway. He told Tom about the gallery, the woman, the ex-husband, the kiss. Tom listened without interruption, his expression shifting from surprise to concern. "And then she just left?" Tom asked when Dawson finished. "I gave her my card, told her to call if she needed anything." Dawson picked up a pen, set it down again. "She will not call." "Why would she? It was a moment of panic, nothing more." "You looked her up, did you not?" Dawson said nothing, which was answer enough. Tom sighed. "Dawson, my friend, I love you like a brother, but you cannot save everyone." "I am not trying to save anyone." Dawson met his friend's eyes. "I am simply concerned about a woman whose name you do not even know." But that was the thing. Dawson had looked her up. Clara Evans, 36, illustrator, divorced. A daughter named Maya, age 6, and an ex-husband named Daniel Thompson, who had a reputation in certain legal circles for being controlling and litigious. He did not tell Tom any of this. It would sound like stalking, like an obsession, when really it was just concern, the kind of concern he felt for all the people his foundation tried to help, distant, abstract, manageable. Except this did not feel distant. It felt immediate and specific and troubling in ways he could not quite articulate. "I should get back to work," Dawson said, opening the first file on his desk. "Was there something else you needed?" Tom studied him for a long moment, then shook his head. "Just be careful, Dawson. Whatever you are thinking about doing." "I'm not thinking about doing anything." But after Tom left, Dawson found himself picking up his phone, staring at it, wondering if there was a way to check on her without seeming intrusive, to make sure she was all right, to know if the ex-husband had bothered her again. He set the phone down. This was ridiculous. She was a stranger. One moment of connection did not entitle him to insert himself into her life, but he could not shake the memory of her eyes, wide with fear and gratitude, the way she had trembled when she stepped back, the courage it had taken to ask a stranger for help. The painting in the gallery came back to him, the bird in the golden cage. She had been standing next to it when her ex-husband cornered her, Maybe that meant nothing, or maybe it meant everything. Dawson turned back to his window, to his city, to his carefully constructed life of influence without involvement, and wondered, not for the first time, if he had built his own cage without ever noticing the bars. The coffee shop was busy for a weekday morning, filled with the hiss of espresso machines and the low hum of laptop workers seeking caffeine and Wi-Fi. Clara sat at a corner table, her sketchpad open in front of her, trying to concentrate on the illustration taking shape beneath her pencil. A bear teaching a young cub to be brave, appropriate, given everything. "Is this seat taken?" Clara looked up, and her heart stopped. Dawson Blackwood stood beside her table, holding a paper coffee cup, his expression uncertain in a way that seemed at odds with the expensive suit and quiet confidence. He looked different in daylight, more human somehow, though no less striking. No, Clara managed, heat flooding her cheeks. Yes. She took a breath. "You can sit, if you want to." He settled into the chair across from her, setting down his coffee with careful precision. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Clara was acutely aware of her worn jeans, her paint-stained sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked like what she was, an artist struggling to make ends meet, and he looked like a man worth billions who probably had better things to do than seek out strangers who had kissed him without permission. "I should apologize again," Clara said finally, unable to bear the silence. "For the other night, that was completely inappropriate. I put you in an impossible position." "You put me in a position to help someone who needed it," Dawson corrected gently. "There is no apology necessary." He paused, then added, "Although I confess, I have been wondering if you were all right. Your ex-husband seemed angry. Daniel is always angry." The words came out more bitter than Clara intended, "especially when he does not get his way. Does he often not get his way with you?" Clara studied him, trying to read the intent behind the question. There was no judgment in his grey eyes, only genuine curiosity. "Not anymore," she said carefully. "That is why we are divorced." Dawson nodded, as if this confirmed something he had suspected. "Forgive me for saying so, but he struck me as the type of man who would not take that well." "You would be correct." Clara closed her sketchpad, giving up any pretense of working. Her hands needed something to do, so she wrapped them around her own coffee cup, seeking warmth. "He filed for primary custody of our daughter. Yesterday, actually. The papers are probably waiting for me when I get home." Something shifted in Dawson's expression. A flash of anger, quickly controlled. "I see. Do you?" Clara was not sure why she was telling him this. This stranger who had stumbled into her crisis through no fault of his own. "Do you see how he will use money and lawyers and everything I cannot afford against me? How he will paint me as unstable, as a woman who kisses random men at galleries?" She laughed, hollow. "He was probably hoping for something like that. Evidence of my poor judgment." "That is not what happened," Dawson said firmly. "What happened was a woman protecting herself from harassment. Anyone with eyes could see that. Could they? Or would they see what he wants them to see?" Clara shook her head. "I am sorry, this is not your problem. I should not be dumping all of this on you." "Why did you approach me?" Dawson asked. "At the gallery, there were other people there." "Why me?" Clara considered the question, trying to find words for an instinct she had not fully understood herself. "You looked safe," she said finally. "Like someone who would not take advantage. And you looked sad, like maybe you understood what it felt like to need help." Dawson's smile was small and melancholy. "That is remarkably perceptive of you." "I am an illustrator. I notice expressions." Clara traced the rim of her cup with one finger. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you here? How did you even find me?" He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I may have searched your work online." "You are quite talented. And this coffee shop was listed on your professional website as a place you sometimes worked." He met her eyes. "I wanted to make sure you were all right. That is all. I did not mean to intrude." "It is not an intrusion." Clara was surprised to find she meant it. There was something disarming about his honesty, the way he admitted to looking her up without making it sound creepy. "But I'm curious what a man like you wants with someone like me." "What do you mean, a man like me? I know who you are, Mr. Blackwood. I looked you up too." Clara watched his expression carefully. "Billionaire philanthropist, the Blackwood Foundation. You could probably buy this entire city block before lunch." Dawson winced. "Please, call me Dawson. And yes, I have resources. Resources I inherited and am trying to use responsibly." He leaned forward slightly, "But that does not change the fact that I met someone who was in trouble and wanted to make sure she was safe. It has nothing to do with money." "Does it not?" Clara heard the defensiveness in her own voice and tried to soften it. "Because in my experience, everything has to do with money, especially custody battles." "Then let me be clear." Dawson's voice was quiet, but firm. "I am not here to throw money at your problems. I am not here to solve anything for you. I am here because we had a strange, intense moment of connection, and I wanted to know if you were all right. That is all." Clara studied him, looking for the catch, the angle, the inevitable string attached, but his expression remained open, almost vulnerable. "You barely know me," she said finally. "True. But I would like to—" Dawson smiled, a real smile that transformed his serious face into something warmer. "If you are willing, coffee, conversation, no obligations, no expectations, just getting to know another human being." It was the most tempting and terrifying offer Clara had received in years. "I do not have time to date," she said, "between work and Maya and everything else. I am not asking for a date. I am asking if I can see you again, here or anywhere you feel comfortable, to talk." He paused. "I spent most of my life surrounded by people who want something from me. Money, influence, access. It is exhausting. You kissed me because you needed help, not because you knew who I was. That is refreshing." Clara laughed despite herself. "That is one way to describe assault." It was not assault. It was improvisation. Dawson's eyes held hers. "Say yes, Clara. Let me buy you coffee and hear about your work. Let me be someone who listens without wanting anything in return. Is that really so dangerous?" Yes, Clara thought, because I could get used to this. I could start to need this. And then where would I be? But what she said was, "Friday afternoon, here, 3 o'clock. I have an hour before I need to pick up Maya from school." Dawson's smile widened. "Friday at 3. I will be here." He stood, taking his coffee cup with him, and Clara felt the loss of his presence immediately. At the door, he turned back. "Clara, whatever happens with your ex-husband, you are not alone in this. I hope you know that." And then he was gone, leaving Clara sitting alone with her sketchpad and her lukewarm coffee, and a feeling in her chest that might have been hope or might have been terror. Possibly both. She looked down at her drawing. The mama bear and her cub, teaching bravery. Maybe it was time she took her own advice. Friday arrived with the kind of golden autumn light that made everything feel possible. Clara had changed her outfit 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress, modest and worn but flattering. She felt ridiculous, like a teenager preparing for prom, not a 36-year-old single mother meeting an acquaintance for coffee. Except he was not really an acquaintance, was he? He was the man she had kissed in desperation, who had somehow transformed into someone she found herself thinking about at odd hours, someone whose kindness felt genuine in a way that made her nervous. Dawson was already waiting when she arrived, sitting at the same corner table. He rose when he saw her, a gesture of old-fashioned courtesy that made her heart flutter. "You came," he said, as if he had genuinely doubted she would. "I said I would." Clara sat down, accepting the coffee he had already ordered for her. "How did you know what I drink?" "I asked the barista. She said you always get the same thing. Vanilla latte, extra foam." The fact that he had done this, remembered this, cared enough to do it, felt almost overwhelming. Clara wrapped her hands around the warm cup, buying herself a moment. "Thank you." They settled into conversation more easily than Clara expected. Dawson asked about her work, genuinely interested in the process of illustrating children's books, the way she tried to capture emotion in simple lines and colors. She found herself showing him her sketchpad, explaining the story she was working on, a tale about a young rabbit learning that being small did not mean being powerless. "That is beautiful," Dawson said, studying the sketch of the rabbit standing up to a fox twice its size. "You have a gift for expression. The rabbit looks scared but determined. You can see its whole heart on the page. That is the goal." Clara felt warmth spread through her chest, the same feeling she got when Maya loved a new drawing. Validation from someone who truly saw. Children understand so much more than we give them credit for. They need stories that reflect real fear, real courage. Is that what you needed as a child? Stories about courage? Clara paused, surprised by the insight. "My father died when I was 12. Heart attack. Sudden. My mother tried to hold things together, but..." She shrugged. "She died when I was 24. Cancer. I suppose I learned early that the world does not always feel safe. I am sorry." Dawson's voice held genuine compassion. "That must have been terribly difficult." "It was, but it also taught me to take care of myself, to not rely on anyone else to save me." Clara smiled sadly, which makes what happened at the gallery especially ironic. Or maybe it makes it brave. Asking for help is harder than doing everything alone. Before Clara could respond, movement outside the window caught her eye. A process server, walking purposefully toward the coffee shop entrance. Her stomach dropped. "Clara Evans?" the woman asked, approaching their table. "Yes, you have been served." She handed Clara a thick envelope and left as efficiently as she had arrived. Clara's hands shook as she opened it. Legal documents, thick and official and devastating. Petition for modification of custody, emergency hearing requested. Daniel Thompson versus Clara Evans. Allegations of unstable living environment, inability to provide adequate care, introduction of child to unknown individuals. That last one felt pointed. He must have seen her at the gallery, seen her with Dawson, and now he was weaponizing it. "Clara?" Dawson's voice seemed to come from very far away. "What is it?" She could not speak, could not breathe. The documents blurred in her vision as tears welled up, hot and shameful. This was it. Daniel was really doing it. He was trying to take Maya away. "May I see?" Dawson asked gently. Clara handed him the papers, unable to look at him. She heard him reading, the rustle of pages, the soft exhale of anger. "This is... Clara, he cannot do this. He can. He is." Her voice broke. "And I cannot afford to fight him. Not really. His lawyer is Robert Chen. Do you know who that is? Top family law attorney in the state. Retainer of $50,000. I could not pay that if I worked for the next 5 years. Then we will find you representation. Someone good. Someone who will fight for you." "With what money, Dawson?" Clara finally met his eyes, letting him see her desperation. "I am barely making rent. I have maybe $2,000 in savings. That might get me a consultation. Maybe..." Dawson was quiet for a long moment. She could see him thinking, calculating, trying to find a solution. "I know people," he said finally. "I could make some calls. Connect you with attorneys who might take your case pro bono or on contingency. And then what? I owe you. Again. Clara heard the bitterness in her voice and could not stop it. This is exactly what Daniel did. Helped me, supported me, made me dependent on him, and then every kindness became a chain. I am not Daniel. No, but you are still a man with power offering help to someone powerless. How is that different? The words hung between them, harsh and honest. Dawson flinched as if she had struck him, but he did not look away. You are right, he said quietly. I apologize. That was presumptuous of me. Clara pressed her hands to her face, fighting for composure. No, I am sorry. You are trying to help. I cannot afford to be in debt to anyone right now, not even kindness debt. Do you understand? I do. Dawson reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. But Clara, even if you will not let me help directly, please promise me you will find an attorney. Someone. Do not face this alone. I do not have a choice. You do. There are resources, legal aid, women's advocacy groups. You have options beyond either me or nothing. Clara looked at him, this man who barely knew her but seemed to care anyway. Why do you care so much, really? Dawson was quiet for a long moment. Because 3 years ago, my mother died. And the last thing she told me was that my father had spent his whole life using his power to control people, and that she hoped I would be different, that I would use what I had to empower others instead of dominating them. He met her eyes. I thought I was doing that through the foundation, distant, abstract charity. But when I saw you at the gallery, when you needed help, I actually felt useful, real, like I mattered to another human being, not just as a checkbook. That is a lot of responsibility to put on a stranger. Yes, which is why I am trying not to push. I will give you space, Clara. I will respect your boundaries, but I hope— He paused. I hope you will let me at least be your friend, someone you can talk to, no obligations, no debts, just a person who cares if you are okay. Clara wanted to say no, wanted to protect herself, maintain her walls, stay safe in her self-sufficient isolation. But sitting there, holding papers that threatened to destroy her world, she could not quite manage it. Stay, she heard herself say. For now, just sit with me while I figure out what to do next. Dawson settled back in his chair, and they sat together in silence, two strangers connected by crisis and something neither was quite ready to name. Outside, the autumn sun continued its golden descent, indifferent to human pain, indifferent to the ways lives could shatter and reform in the space between one heartbeat and the next. Clara stared at the custody papers and thought about rabbits standing up to foxes, about being small but not powerless, about the courage it took to ask for help and the courage it took to accept it. I need a lawyer, she said finally. Can you really help me find one, without strings? Yes. Dawson pulled out his phone. I know someone. His name is Tom Bradford. He is a family law attorney, and he is a good man. Let me call him, just to talk. No commitment. Will you let me do that much? Clara took a deep breath and nodded. It was not acceptance, not yet. But it was not refusal either, and sometimes that was how courage began. Thomas Bradford's office occupied the 20th floor of a downtown building, all glass and modern furniture, and the kind of understated elegance that Clara associated with people who never worried about money. She sat in the reception area, hands folded in her lap, trying not to feel out of place in her second-hand blazer and department store shoes. Dawson sat beside her, a quiet presence. He had insisted on coming, not to speak for her, but to provide support. Moral support, he had called it, as if his mere presence was not already overwhelming enough. Mrs. Evans, a young woman appeared, professional and kind. Mr. Bradford will see you now. Clara stood, legs unsteady. Dawson rose with her. She glanced at him, uncertain. I will wait here, he said, seeming to understand without asking. Unless you want me to come in? No, I mean, maybe just wait in case—" She could not finish the sentence. "In case I need you, in case I break down, in case this goes as badly as I think it will. I will be right here." Tom Bradford was in his early 50s, with warm brown eyes and an air of competent kindness. He shook Clara's hand firmly, gestured her to a chair, and waited until she was seated before settling behind his desk. "Dawson told me a bit about your situation," Tom said without preamble. "Ex-husband filing for primary custody, expensive opposing counsel, limited resources on your side. Is that accurate?" "Yes." Clara's voice came out steadier than she felt. "May I see the filing?" She handed him the documents she had now read dozens of times, memorizing every accusation, every insinuation. Tom read through them methodically, his expression giving away nothing. "This is aggressive," he said finally, "but not unusual for Robert Chen. He likes to go for the throat right away, try to intimidate the opposition into settling." Tom set down the papers. "The question is, are the allegations true?" "No, I mean—" Clara struggled for words. "I'm not wealthy, but Maya has everything she needs. She is loved. She is safe. She is thriving. And the allegation about introducing her to unknown individuals—" Clara felt heat rise in her cheeks. "My ex-husband saw me with a friend. At a gallery. He is twisting it into something it was not. This friend being Dawson, I assume. Yes, but Maya has never even met him. This has nothing to do with her." Tom nodded slowly. "Here is what I can tell you, Clara. This is winnable. Daniel's allegations are vague and largely based on socio-economic status, which is not grounds for changing custody. You have been the primary parent since the divorce. Maya is doing well in school. There is no evidence of neglect or abuse." He paused. "However, it is going to be expensive. Robert Chen does not come cheap, and Daniel will throw money at this. We will need to do depositions, possibly a custody evaluation, expert witnesses. You are looking at $20,000 to $30,000 in legal fees, minimum." The number hit Clara like a physical blow. She could not breathe. "I do not have that," she managed. "Not even close." "I know, which is why I'm going to take your case on contingency." Tom smiled at her stunned expression. "I do not do this often, but Dawson is a friend, and more importantly, I believe you. I believe this is a father using the legal system to punish his ex-wife, not to protect his child. I do not like bullies, Clara, and I especially do not like seeing them win." "But how does contingency work in a custody case?" "There is no settlement to take a percentage of—" "There is not, which means I am essentially taking this pro bono with a payment plan. If you win, you pay me $1,000 a month until the balance is covered. If you lose—" He shrugged. "We will figure something out, but we are not going to lose." Clara felt tears threaten again, hot and overwhelming. "Why would you do this?" "Because someone did it for me once, a long time ago, when my daughter needed legal help and I could not afford it." Tom's expression softened. "Pay it forward, Clara. That is all I ask. When you are in a position to help someone else, do it." Yes, of course. Thank you." Clara wiped at her eyes, laughing shakily. "I am sorry. I am not usually this emotional. You are a mother facing the possibility of losing her child. I would be worried if you were not emotional." Tom pulled out a legal pad. "All business now. Let us talk strategy. First, we need to file a response. Then we need to start gathering evidence. School records, medical records, character witnesses. Anyone who can speak to your parenting and Maya's well-being. Can you do that?" "Yes. My friend Rachel. She has known us for years. And Maya's teacher, Miss Henderson, she could testify." "Good. We will also want to look into Daniel's background. See if there are any skeletons we can use." Tom glanced up. "I am assuming he is not quite the perfect father he is pretending to be." Clara thought about Daniel's indifference to Maya, the way he saw her as an accessory, not a person. No, he is not. Then we will find it. Men like him always leave trails. Tom stood, extending his hand again. Welcome to the team, Clara. We are going to fight for your daughter, and we are going to win. Clara shook his hand, feeling something she had not felt in days. Hope. In the reception area, Dawson rose the moment he saw her. Well, he is taking my case. Clara heard her voice break with relief. He is actually taking my case. Of course he is. Tom Bradford is the best man I know. Dawson smiled, genuine and warm. See, you are not alone in this. They walked to the elevator together, and Clara felt the weight of the past few days finally beginning to lift. Not disappear, but become bearable, shareable. Thank you, she said as they waited for the elevator, for connecting me with him, for, she gestured vaguely, everything. You do not need to thank me. I do, though. You barely know me, and you have done so much. I barely know you yet, Dawson corrected, but I would like to, if you will let me. The elevator arrived. Clara stepped inside, and Dawson followed. They descended in comfortable silence, the city spreading out below them through the glass walls, 20 floors of distance between Tom Bradford's office and the street. But Clara felt like she had traveled much farther, from desperation to possibility. From alone to accompanied. Maya has a soccer game tomorrow, Clara found herself saying. Saturday morning, 10 o'clock at Zilker Park. If you do not have to, but if you wanted to see what she is like, what we are like, you could come, if you wanted. Dawson's face lit up with a smile that transformed him entirely. I would love that. It is just a kid's soccer game. 6-year-olds mostly running in circles and occasionally kicking the ball. Not exactly exciting. It sounds perfect. The elevator reached the ground floor, and they stepped out into the afternoon sun. Clara squinted against the brightness, fumbling in her purse for sunglasses. Clara. Dawson's voice was gentle. I know you are scared. Of Daniel, of the custody battle, of accepting help. But you are one of the bravest people I have met. Just keep being that brave, and everything else will follow. Clara looked up at him, this strange man who had entered her life through chaos and stayed through choice. What if I am not brave? What if I am just terrified and pretending? Then you are an excellent actress, because from where I stand, you are extraordinary. He said it so simply, with such conviction, that Clara almost believed him. See you tomorrow, she said, backing away before she could do something foolish, like hug him or cry or both. 10 o'clock, Zilker Park. I will be there. Clara walked to her car, feeling his gaze follow her. She did not look back, but she felt it anyway. A tether, gentle and somehow reassuring. A connection she had not asked for, but found herself grateful for all the same. That night, she held Maya close while reading bedtime stories, breathing in the scent of her daughter's shampoo, memorizing the weight of her in Clara's arms. Maya was safe. Maya was loved. And now, finally, Maya had a fighting chance of staying exactly where she belonged. Mommy, Maya's sleepy voice interrupted the story. Are you happy? Yes, baby, Clara whispered. I am getting there. Saturday morning arrived bright and cool. Perfect soccer weather. Clara stood on the sidelines of the Zilker Park field, surrounded by other parents with folding chairs and travel mugs of coffee, watching Maya dart around in her oversized jersey. Number 7, too big, too enthusiastic, too perfect. She is fast, Rachel Martinez said beside her, shading her eyes against the sun. When did she get so fast? Last week, apparently. She has been practicing. Clara smiled, feeling the warmth of maternal pride. She wants to be the best on the team. She wants to impress you. I am already impressed. Rachel bumped her shoulder companionably. They had been friends since high school, through Clara's disastrous marriage and painful divorce, through Maya's birth and every milestone after. If anyone had earned the right to ask difficult questions, it was Rachel. "So," Rachel said carefully, "tell me about the billionaire," Clara groaned. "How did you know?" "Clara, I own a bookstore. I read the news. Dawson Blackwood is not exactly low profile." Rachel's dark eyes were kind but curious. "Is it serious?" "It is not anything. We are just friends, I guess. He helped me find a lawyer." "Friends, right. Friends you kissed at art galleries." "That was different. That was desperation." Clara watched Maya steal the ball from another player, her face fierce with concentration. I do not know what this is, but you want to find out. Maybe, yes, I do not know." Clara sighed. "Is that allowed? Am I allowed to want something for myself while my entire life is falling apart?" "You are allowed to want whatever you want," Rachel said firmly. "You have been alone for 3 years, Clara. You are allowed to meet someone, even someone rich and handsome and apparently interested in you. He is coming today, to the game." "I invited him." Rachel's eyebrows rose. "Did you now? Do not make that face. I just wanted him to see us, to understand what we are. Who Maya is." Clara bit her lip. "Is that weird?" "It is thoughtful and brave." Rachel squeezed her arm. "I am proud of you, for fighting back, for letting someone help you, for all of it." "I have not let him help, not really. Tom Bradford is taking my case on contingency." "Because Dawson asked him to." "That is helping, Clara. You do not have to accept money to accept support." Before Clara could respond, she spotted him, Dawson, walking across the field toward them, dressed casually in jeans and a button-down shirt that still somehow looked elegant. He carried 2 coffee cups and wore an expression of tentative hope that made Clara's heart squeeze. "He brought coffee," Rachel murmured. "I like him already." "Rachel." I know. Friends." But Rachel was smiling. Dawson reached them, slightly breathless. "I was not sure if you drank coffee before 10, but I took a chance." He handed 1 cup to Clara, the other to Rachel. "And you must be Rachel. I have heard a great deal about you." "All good, I hope." Rachel accepted the coffee with a grin. "And thank you. You just became my new favorite person." They stood together watching the game, Clara hyper-aware of Dawson beside her, the way he leaned forward when Maya got the ball, the small sounds of appreciation when she made a good play. He was genuinely engaged, not performing interest. The difference mattered. "She is remarkable," Dawson said after Maya scored a goal, a scrappy, determined kick that barely made it past the goalkeeper. "Look at that focus." "She gets it from her mother," Rachel said, shooting Clara a meaningful look, stubborn determination in the face of impossible odds. "I can see that." Dawson smiled at Clara, warm and real. "Must be genetic." The game ended with Maya's team victorious, 3-2. Maya ran over, flushed and sweaty and ecstatic, and threw herself into Clara's arms. "Did you see, Mommy? Did you see my goal?" "I saw, sweetheart." "You were amazing." Clara held her daughter tight, feeling the wild beat of her small heart, the aliveness of her. This was what Daniel wanted to take away, not because he loved Maya more, but because he wanted to punish Clara for leaving him. She would not let that happen. "Who is that?" Maya asked, noticing Dawson for the first time. "This is my friend, Dawson," Clara said carefully. "Dawson, this is Maya." Dawson crouched down to Maya's level, making himself smaller, less intimidating. "Hello, Maya. That was an excellent goal. You have quite a kick." Maya studied him with the frank assessment of childhood. "Are you Mommy's boyfriend?" "Maya!" Clara felt heat flood her cheeks, but Dawson just laughed. "No, I am your mother's friend. We met recently, and I wanted to see you play soccer. I hope that is all right." "It is okay," Maya decided. "Are you going to come to my next game too?" If your mother invites me, I would love to. Maya seemed satisfied with this answer and ran off to join her teammates, already chattering about the game. Clara watched her go, feeling Dawson's gaze on her. "She is wonderful," he said quietly. "She is my entire world." "I can see that." Dawson straightened, his expression serious now. "Clara, I know this is difficult. The custody battle, letting someone new into your life. But I want you to know, I am not going anywhere. Whatever happens, however long this takes, I am here. As a friend, as someone who cares." Clara looked at him, this man who had somehow become important in the space of a week. "Why?" she asked again, the question that kept circling back. "Why do you care so much?" Dawson was quiet for a long moment, watching Maya laugh with her friends. "Because I have spent most of my life insulated from real connection. Money does that, creates barriers even when you do not mean it to. Everyone wants something, or they are afraid of wanting something, and genuine relationships become nearly impossible." He turned to her. "But you needed help, and you asked for it anyway, despite the cost. That takes courage I have rarely seen, and now I have met you. Met Maya, seen this life you have built from almost nothing. How could I not care? You barely know us. I know enough. I know you are fighting for your daughter with everything you have. I know you create beauty for children, help them feel brave. I know you asked a stranger for help when you had no other choice, and that took more courage than I have shown in 45 years. He paused. "Let me be part of this, Clara, not as a rescuer, as a partner, as someone who stands beside you while you fight your own battles." Clara felt tears threaten and blinked them back. "I do not know how to do that, accept partnership. Daniel made me so afraid of depending on anyone." "Then we will figure it out together. No rush, no pressure, just one day at a time." Rachel had tactfully moved away to talk to other parents, giving them privacy. Maya was still celebrating with her team, oblivious to the adult conversation happening yards away. The world continued around them, indifferent and busy. But in this moment, Clara felt a shift. A possibility opening. "Okay," she heard herself say, "one day at a time." Dawson's smile was like sunrise, slow and warm and transformative. "Thank you." They stood together in the morning sun, watching children play, and Clara thought about courage, the courage to fight, the courage to ask for help, the courage to believe that maybe, just maybe, not all men were Daniel, that some could be trusted with vulnerability without weaponizing it. It was too soon to know if Dawson was one of those men, but for the first time in years, Clara was willing to find out. Maya ran back over, demanding they go for ice cream to celebrate. Rachel rejoined them, and somehow it was decided that they would all go together. This strange assembled group of old friends and new ones. Clara watched Maya skip ahead with Rachel, chattering about the game, while Dawson walked beside her. "What is your favorite flavor?" he asked. "What? Ice cream? What is your favorite?" Clara laughed, surprised by the normalcy of the question. "Mint chocolate chip, very boring." "Not boring. Classic." Dawson's eyes crinkled with amusement. "Mine is Rocky Road, equally unoriginal." They talked about ice cream, about soccer, about inconsequential things, and it felt like the most significant conversation Clara had had in years, because it was normal, because it was easy, because she was letting someone in, however incrementally, and the world was not ending. Maya got her ice cream, a towering cone of cotton candy flavor that would inevitably end up mostly on her face. Rachel made knowing eyes at Clara over her coffee ice cream. Dawson asked Maya about school, about her favorite subjects, about her drawings, and listened to her rambling answers with genuine interest. "I like you," Maya announced to Dawson with characteristic bluntness. "You can come to my next game." "I would be honored," Dawson said solemnly. Clara's phone buzzed. A text from Tom Bradford. Response filed. First hearing scheduled for next month. We are in this now. She looked at the message, feeling the weight of what was coming. A battle. A war, really, fought in courtrooms and depositions and legal briefs. Daniel would not go easy. He would use every advantage, every dollar, every manipulation he had perfected over years of controlling her. But she was not alone anymore. She had Rachel, who had always been there. She had Tom Bradford, who believed her. She had Maya, who loved her fiercely and without doubt. And she had Dawson, this unexpected presence who had entered her life through chaos and stayed through choice. It was not enough to guarantee victory, but it was enough to make her believe victory was possible. "You okay?" Dawson asked quietly, noticing her expression. Clara looked at him, at Maya happily destroying her ice cream cone, at Rachel watching them both with approval. "Yes," she said, and meant it. "I think I am." For now, in this moment, that was enough. The battle was coming, but today they had ice cream and sunshine and the simple joy of Saturday morning with people who cared. Today, that was everything. 2 weeks passed in a rhythm Clara had not experienced in years. Work, Maya, and now, unexpectedly, Dawson, not intrusively, not demandingly, but present in a way that felt both foreign and essential. He came to Maya's second soccer game, and her third. He brought coffee to the park on Saturday mornings, while Maya played on the swings. He asked about Clara's illustrations, genuinely interested in the stories she told through pictures, the way a frightened bunny could become brave, or a lost bird could find home. They had dinner twice, simple meals at family restaurants where Maya could be herself, loud and messy and six. Dawson listened to her rambling stories about school with the same attention he gave to Clara's fears about the custody battle. He was learning to be part of their world, and Clara was learning to let him. "He is good with her," Rachel observed one afternoon, watching through the bookstore window as Dawson pushed Maya on a nearby swing. Clara had stopped by during her lunch break, needing the comfort of her oldest friend's presence. "He is good with everyone." Clara cradled her tea, grateful for the warmth. "Sometimes I forget he is one of the wealthiest men in Texas. He just seems normal." "That is because he is normal. Rich, yes, but human." Rachel turned from the window, studying Clara with knowing eyes. "You are falling for him." "I am not." Clara stopped, reconsidered. "Maybe. I do not know. Is that allowed? While everything else is chaos. Especially while everything else is chaos." Rachel's smile was gentle. "You deserve happiness, Clara. You deserve someone who looks at you the way he does." "How does he look at me?" "Like you hung the moon, like you were the most fascinating person he has ever met, like he would do anything to make you smile." Clara felt heat rise in her cheeks. "We are taking it slow, for Maya's sake, and because—" She trailed off, unsure how to articulate the fear that still lived in her bones, the fear that this kindness, this attention, would eventually demand payment. "Because you are terrified," Rachel finished, "which is understandable. But Clara, he is not Daniel. Surely you see that." "I am trying to—" The bell over the door chimed, and Maya burst in, Dawson following more sedately. "Aunt Rachel!" "Mr. Dawson pushed me so high I almost touched the clouds." "Did you now?" Rachel crouched to Maya's level, playing along. "What did they feel like?" "Fluffy?" Maya giggled, then spotted the cookies Rachel kept behind the counter. "Can I have one, please?" "Of course, but just one, or your mother will have my head." Maya scampered behind the counter, and Dawson approached Clara, his smile soft. "She has impressive lung capacity. I think I am partially deaf." Clara laughed despite herself. "Welcome to parenting." "I am honored to experience it, even peripherally." He settled into the chair beside her, close but not invasive. "How are you holding up? Jennifer said the first hearing is next week." "I am terrified." The admission came easier than it once had. What if the judge sides with Daniel? What if my poverty matters more than my love? It will not. Dawson's conviction was absolute. Jennifer is brilliant, and the truth is on your side. Since when does truth matter in family court? Since always, when you have the right representation. He hesitated, then added carefully, I know you do not want my help directly. I respect that. But if there is anything I can do, anything that does not make you feel obligated, please tell me. Clara looked at him, this man who had become so important so quickly. You are already doing it, being here, caring. That is more than enough. The gratitude in his eyes made her chest ache. How long, she wondered, since someone had told Dawson Blackwood that his presence alone was valuable, that he did not need to solve problems or write checks to matter. Rachel emerged from the back room, Maya trailing behind with cookie crumbs on her face. Clara, I hate to ask, but could you watch the store for 20 minutes? I need to run to the bank before they close. Of course. Clara stood, already moving behind the counter. Rachel grabbed her purse and keys, pausing only to kiss Maya's head before rushing out. The afternoon stretched into evening, quiet and domestic. Dawson helped Maya with the coloring books Rachel kept for young visitors. Clara organized new arrivals, the familiar comfort of books surrounding her. This, she thought, this is what peace feels like. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Just a photo. Clara opened it and felt her blood freeze. The image showed her and Dawson at the park, his hand on Maya's back as he helped her onto the swing. Innocent, parental, loving. But through a certain lens, through Daniel's lens, it could be made to look different, inappropriate, dangerous. Another text arrived, building my case. Enjoy your new boyfriend while you can. Clara's hands shook. Dawson noticed immediately, crossing to her with concern. What is it? She showed him the messages. His jaw tightened, anger flashing across his usually calm features. He is surveilling you. He is building his case. Clara's voice felt distant, detached. Everything I do, everyone I see, it is all ammunition, even you, especially you. Then we stop seeing each other in public, or I stay away entirely, if that helps. No. The word came fierce, surprising them both. No. I will not let him control my life anymore. I will not hide you or us or whatever this is. If he wants to use my happiness against me, let him try. Dawson's expression shifted, pride mixing with concern. Are you sure? Because I can step back, Clara. I do not want to make this harder for you. You are not making it harder. You are making it bearable. Clara reached for his hand, a gesture she still found difficult but increasingly necessary. Stay, please. Just be careful. He is watching. Then let him watch me being your friend. There is nothing wrong with that. But there was, Clara thought, because friendship had started to feel inadequate for what she felt when Dawson smiled at her. When he listened to Maya's stories, when he brought coffee and asked about her day and made her feel like she mattered beyond her usefulness. That night, after Maya was asleep, Clara lay in bed and thought about surveillance cameras and lawyers, and the ways Daniel had always found to make her feel small. But she also thought about Dawson's steady presence, Rachel's unwavering support, and the lawyer who believed her enough to take her case. She was not alone anymore. And that, she realized, was what terrified Daniel most. The courthouse felt like a cathedral of judgment, all marble and echoing footsteps and whispered conversations that might determine her future. Clara smoothed her borrowed suit, a conservative navy piece from her sister Sarah, and tried to remember how to breathe. Jennifer Walsh appeared beside her, professional and calm in a way that Clara envied. Remember, the first hearing is just opening statements and preliminary witnesses. We are establishing the narrative. Stay calm, answer honestly if asked, and trust the process. Trust the process, Clara echoed, the words feeling hollow. Across the hallway, Daniel stood with Robert Chen, his attorney, looking confident and expensive. Patricia, Daniel's mother, stood with them, her expression pinched and judgmental. "Clara," Jennifer's voice pulled her back. "Look at me. You are a good mother. Maya is thriving under your care. The evidence is on our side. Do not let them intimidate you." Clara nodded, not trusting her voice. She glanced toward the gallery seating and found Dawson already there, sitting quietly in the back. He met her eyes and gave a small, encouraging nod. Sarah sat beside him, her presence a surprise and a comfort. Judge Helen Morrison entered, and everyone rose. She was in her late 50s, with sharp eyes and an air of no-nonsense authority. Clara both feared and hoped for her judgment. The preliminaries passed in a blur of legal language. Then Robert Chen stood for his opening statement, and Clara felt the room tilt. "Your Honor, this case is about a child's welfare. Maya Thompson is 6 years old, caught between a father who can provide stability and a mother who, despite her best intentions, cannot meet her basic needs." His voice was smooth, practiced. "We will demonstrate that Clara Evans is living in financial instability, unable to afford adequate housing or childcare, that she has introduced her daughter to a series of men, most recently a much older, wealthy man she met only weeks ago, that her judgment is questionable at best, dangerous at worst." Each word landed like a blow. Clara felt Jennifer's hand on her arm, steadying. Jennifer's response was equally measured, but fierce. "Your Honor, what my client lacks in financial resources, she more than compensates for with love, attention, and devotion. Maya Evans is a thriving first grader with excellent grades, strong social connections, and a secure attachment to her mother. Mr. Thompson's allegations stem not from concern for his daughter, but from a desire to punish his ex-wife for leaving an emotionally abusive marriage. We will prove that Clara Evans is not only an adequate parent, but an exemplary one." Judge Morrison listened without visible reaction, then called the first witness. Daniel took the stand, and Clara watched the man she had once loved transform into a stranger. He spoke with rehearsed emotion about his concern for Maya, about Clara's erratic behavior and impulsive decisions, about how he worried for his daughter's safety and stability. He mentioned the gallery incident, though not by name, implying Clara engaged in inappropriate public behavior while Maya was in her care. "And what is your relationship status, Mr. Thompson?" Robert Chen asked. "I am single, Your Honor. My entire focus is on my daughter and providing her with a stable home environment. And Mrs. Evans, I believe she is involved with someone, a man she met very recently. I have concerns about Maya being exposed to this relationship." Jennifer objected. "Speculation and irrelevant to the child's welfare." "Sustained," Judge Morrison said. "Mr. Chen, stick to facts." But the seed was planted. Clara could feel the judge's gaze on her, assessing, measuring. Jennifer's cross-examination was surgical. "Mr. Thompson, how many days per month do you currently spend with your daughter?" 4, per our custody agreement. "And how many would you like?" "Full custody. 15 days minimum." "Interesting. In the past 6 months, how many of your scheduled visitation days have you actually exercised?" Daniel hesitated. There have been work obligations." "How many, Mr. Thompson?" "Perhaps 20 days total. 20 days out of a possible 24 weekends. So you missed 4 scheduled visits. As I said, work obligations. Yet you want full custody of a child you currently see less than twice a month. I want to provide her with a better life. Better than her current life, where she attends school regularly, has friends, engages in activities, and lives with her primary attachment figure." Jennifer's tone was sharp. "Or better for you, Mr. Thompson, by punishing your ex-wife for leaving you. Objection, Robert Chen rose, argumentative and inflammatory. Sustained. But Judge Morrison's expression had shifted slightly, skepticism creeping in. The hearing continued with procedural matters. The judge ordered a home study for both residences and a psychological evaluation of Maya with Dr. Emily Chen. Temporary custody would remain with Clara, but Daniel's visitation would increase to every other weekend, pending the final hearing. "We will reconvene in 2 weeks," Judge Morrison said. "I expect complete evaluations from all parties at that time." Outside the courtroom, Clara felt like she had been through battle. Sarah pulled her into a hug, fierce and unexpected. "You did great in there. You were strong. I barely spoke. You were there. You showed up. That matters." Sarah pulled back, studying her younger sister. "I'm sorry I have not been around more. After Mom died, I handled it badly, pulled away when you needed family. You are here now. That is what matters." Dawson approached carefully, aware of the scrutiny still surrounding them. "You were remarkable," he said quietly, composed and dignified. "I felt like I was drowning." "Then you are an excellent swimmer." His slight smile steadied her. "What happens now?" "Home study, evaluation, more waiting." Clara glanced back at the courthouse, where Daniel stood talking to his attorney, Patricia beside him. "He looked so sincere in there, like he actually cares about Maya." "But you know the truth." "I do. I just hope the judge sees it too." Tom Bradford appeared, having watched from the gallery. He and Dawson exchanged a glance that Clara could not quite read. "Jennifer did well," Tom said. "She planted doubt about Daniel's motivations. That is a good start." "A start," Clara echoed, "not a victory. Victories are built on starts. Have faith." But faith felt like a luxury Clara could not afford. She had seen Daniel's performance, the way he painted himself as concerned father and her as unstable mother. She had felt the judge's assessing gaze, weighing Clara's poverty against Daniel's resources. "I need to pick up Maya," she said abruptly, needing to see her daughter, to hold her, to remember what she was fighting for. "Rachel is watching her at the bookstore." "I will drive you," Sarah offered. "We can catch up." Clara nodded, grateful. She looked at Dawson, wanting to say something but uncertain what. "Thank you" felt inadequate. "Stay" felt too needy. "I am scared" felt too true. He seemed to understand without words. "Call me later, if you want to talk, or if you just want someone to listen." "Thank you." It was inadequate, but it was all she had. In Sarah's car, Clara finally let herself shake. "He is going to win," she whispered. "He has money and lawyers and a mother who will lie for him. What do I have?" "The truth," Sarah said firmly, "and people who love you. And a daughter who needs her mother, not her father's money. What if that is not enough? Then we make it enough." Sarah reached over, squeezing Clara's hand. "You are not alone in this, Clara. Not anymore." But alone was how Clara felt as they drove through Austin's afternoon traffic, past people living normal lives, dealing with normal problems. Her daughter's future hung in the balance, and all Clara could do was wait for strangers to decide if her love was sufficient. At the bookstore, Maya ran to her, full of stories about her day, oblivious to the battle being waged over her life. Clara held her close, breathing in strawberry shampoo and innocence, and made a silent vow. She would not lose her daughter. Whatever it took, whatever she had to sacrifice, Maya would stay where she belonged. The judge would see the truth. The evaluation would prove Clara's fitness. Daniel's manipulation would be exposed. It had to be, because the alternative was unthinkable. The second hearing arrived with the weight of winter approaching, the air turning crisp and unforgiving. Clara sat beside Jennifer, watching people file into the courtroom, each one a potential ally or enemy in this surreal war. Daniel's witnesses went first. Patricia Thompson took the stand, elegant in her expensive suit, and proceeded to paint Clara as negligent and unstable. "I have visited Clara's residence," Patricia said, her voice dripping with false concern. "It is small, cramped. Maya does not even have her own bedroom. She shares space with her mother's art supplies." "And this concerns you?" Robert Chen prompted. "Of course it does. A child needs space to grow, to be herself. Clara's poverty, while perhaps not her fault, creates an environment unsuitable for raising a young girl." Clara's fingernails dug into her palms. Maya loved their shared room, loved falling asleep to her mother's quiet sketching, loved the intimacy of their small space, but through Patricia's lens it became neglect. Jennifer's cross-examination was brief and pointed. "Mrs. Thompson, how often do you visit your granddaughter?" Patricia hesitated. "Every few weeks. And how many of those visits take place at Clara's home versus your son's?" Mostly Daniel's. Clara has not made me feel welcome. Or perhaps you prefer not to see how well Maya thrives despite financial limitations?" Jennifer let the question hang. No further questions. The neighbor testified next, a woman Clara barely knew. She spoke of hearing Clara crying late at night, of seeing her struggle with groceries, of Maya sometimes wearing worn clothes to school. All true, all damning in the wrong context. Then came Clara's witnesses, and the narrative shifted. Rachel Martinez took the stand like a warrior, her testimony fierce and protective. "I have known Clara for 20 years. I watched her survive an abusive marriage, rebuild her life from nothing, and become one of the best mothers I have ever seen. Maya is happy, healthy, loved, and thriving. If that is not good parenting, I do not know what is." "She has limited financial resources," Robert Chen interjected during cross-examination. "Are you not concerned about Maya's material needs?" "Maya's material needs are met. She has food, shelter, clothing, medical care, and most importantly, a mother who would do anything for her." Rachel's voice shook with emotion. "Money does not make you a good parent. Love does. And Clara has more love in her little finger than Daniel Thompson has in his entire body." Sarah testified next, and Clara found herself crying quietly as her sister spoke. "Our parents died when we were young. I handled it badly. Pulled away from Clara when she needed me most. But she survived anyway. She built a life, a career, a family. She is the strongest person I know, and Maya adores her. That is what matters." Judge Morrison called for recess, and Clara fled to the bathroom, needing a moment away from the scrutiny. She stared at her reflection, seeing her mother's eyes looking back, remembering her mother's strength in the face of illness and loss. "I need that strength now," Clara whispered to the mirror. "Please." The afternoon session brought the psychological evaluation results. Dr. Emily Chen took the stand, professional and composed. "I spent 3 hours with Maya Evans," Dr. Chen testified. "I conducted play therapy, drawing exercises, and age-appropriate interviews. My findings are clear. Maya shows a secure attachment to her mother, appropriate emotional development, and while she does exhibit some anxiety related to the custody proceedings, she is fundamentally a well-adjusted child." "And her father?" Robert Chen asked. "Maya's relationship with her father is more complicated. She loves him, but describes feeling like she has to be good around him to make him happy. With her mother, she feels safe to express the full range of childhood emotions. Is that not simply a child being more comfortable with her primary parent? It could be, or it could indicate an environment where the child feels conditional acceptance versus unconditional love." Dr. Chen glanced at her notes. "Maya also drew several pictures during our sessions. In her drawings of home with her mother, she includes herself, her mother, family friends, and interestingly, a man she calls Mr. Dawson. The drawings show warmth and inclusion. In drawings of her father's home, she draws herself alone with her father, often smaller and to the side. Clara's heart clenched. She had not known Maya felt isolated at Daniel's. Dr. Chen, in your professional opinion, what custody arrangement serves Maya's best interests? Jennifer asked. Maya should remain primarily with her mother, with regular visitation with her father. The bond with her mother is primary and should be protected. Robert Chen tried to discredit the testimony, suggesting Dr. Chen was biased or that Maya was coached, but Judge Morrison shut him down. Dr. Chen's credentials are impeccable. I will give her evaluation due weight. As they prepared to adjourn, Judge Morrison made an announcement that stopped Clara's heart. I have reviewed the evidence presented thus far. I am not yet prepared to make a final ruling. However, I am scheduling a final hearing in 2 weeks, at which time both parties will present closing arguments and I will issue my decision. 2 weeks, 14 days between Clara and either keeping her daughter or losing her. Outside the courthouse, Jennifer was cautiously optimistic. The evaluation went our way. Dr. Chen's testimony was strong. We are in a good position. But not guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed in family court. But I believe we will win. Belief, faith, trust. Words that felt slippery and uncertain. Dawson met Clara at her car, and she fell into his embrace without thinking, needing his steadiness. I am so tired, she whispered against his chest. Tired of fighting, of being afraid, of having my entire life dissected by strangers. I know, but you are doing it. You are fighting for her. That is what matters. Is it? Clara pulled back, looking up at him. What if I lose anyway? What if love is not enough? It will be. He cupped her face gently, his touch warm and grounding. Love is always enough, Clara. Always. She wanted to believe him. Standing there in the courthouse parking lot, his hands on her face, his eyes full of conviction, she almost did. I need to get Maya, she said finally, stepping back reluctantly. She is at Rachel's again. I cannot keep doing this to her, disrupting her routine. You are protecting her. That is not disruption. That is parenting. Clara managed a tired smile. When did you become an expert on parenting? Since I started watching The Best Mother I Have Ever Met in action. The compliment settled in her chest, warm and almost painful. Will you come to dinner tonight? At my place. I need normal, even if it is just for a few hours. I would love that. They stood together in the fading afternoon light, 2 people bound by crisis and choice, and Clara thought about Dr. Chen's testimony, about the drawings Maya had made, about how her daughter had included Dawson in their family picture without anyone telling her to. Maybe love really was enough. Maybe the judge would see what Maya already knew. That home was not about square footage or bank accounts. It was about where you felt safe to be yourself, flaws and fears and all. Clara clung to that hope as she drove to collect her daughter, as she made simple pasta for dinner, as she watched Dawson and Maya play Go Fish at the kitchen table. This was family. This was love. And if the judge could not see it, if Daniel won anyway, then the system was broken beyond Clara's ability to fix. But tonight, for these few hours, she let herself believe in justice, in truth prevailing, in the possibility that doing everything right might actually be enough. It was a fragile hope, but it was all she had. The weeks between hearings developed a rhythm of careful normalcy. Maya's soccer games, Clara's illustration deadlines, Dawson's steady presence at the edges of their lives, always welcome, never intrusive. They were building something, the 3 of them, though no one spoke it aloud. Speaking, it felt like tempting fate. Dr. Chen scheduled a follow-up session with Maya, wanting to ensure the first evaluation was consistent. Clara sat in the waiting room, flipping through magazines without seeing them, until the door opened and Maya emerged. clutching a lollipop and looking thoughtful. "How did it go, sweetie?" "Good. Dr. Chen is nice. She asked me lots of questions about you and Daddy." Maya settled into the chair beside Clara, her legs swinging. "I told her you make better pancakes." Clara laughed, despite her anxiety. "That is very important information." Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway. "Clara, do you have a moment?" They spoke in her office, while Maya waited with the receptionist. Dr. Chen's expression was kind but serious. "Maya is doing well, better than the first session, actually. The anxiety is decreasing." "That is good." "It is. She feels secure about the outcome, believes she will stay with you. Children often sense these things." Dr. Chen paused. "She also talked a great deal about Dawson. She is quite fond of him." Clara felt heat rise in her cheeks. "He has been supportive. A good friend." Maya called him her almost dad. Dr. Chen smiled at Clara's expression. "I am not judging. I am simply noting that she has formed a healthy attachment to him. He makes her feel safe, included." "That is significant. Is it appropriate, given the custody battle? Is he a good man?" "Yes, I believe so." "Does he treat Maya with kindness and respect?" "Always." "Then it is appropriate. Children need to see healthy adult relationships, Clara. They need to know that not all men are like their fathers, especially when their fathers are difficult." Clara absorbed this, something loosening in her chest. "Robert Chen, Daniel's attorney, made it sound like introducing Maya to Dawson was reckless, evidence of poor judgment. Robert Chen is grasping at straws. You did not move Dawson into your home after 3 days. You did not expose Maya to inappropriate relationships. You allowed someone kind and supportive into your life, and Maya benefited from that. There is a significant difference." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "My updated report will reflect that Maya's home environment with you is stable, loving, and beneficial to her development. I will submit it before the final hearing." "Thank you," Clara's voice broke, "for seeing us, really seeing us. It is my job to see children clearly, and Maya is a very happy child who loves her mother. That comes through in everything she says and does." That evening, Dawson came for dinner again, and afterward, while Maya was engrossed in a movie, Clara and Dawson sat together on the small back porch, wrapped in jackets against the autumn chill. "Dr. Chen's follow-up went well," Clara said, staring at the darkening sky. "She thinks we will win. That is wonderful news. Is it, or am I setting myself up for devastation by believing in good outcomes?" Dawson was quiet for a moment. "I think believing in good outcomes is not the same as being naive. It is choosing hope over despair, and that takes courage. I do not feel courageous. I feel exhausted. Courage and exhaustion often coexist." He reached for her hand, his fingers warm and solid. "Clara, I want to tell you something, and I need you to listen without panicking or pulling away." Her heart rate quickened. "That is a concerning preamble. I care about you deeply. This is not just friendship anymore, and I think you know that." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "I do not want to complicate your life or the custody case, but I also do not want to pretend that what I feel is casual or convenient, because it is not." Clara stared at their joined hands, emotions warring inside her. Terror and longing, fear and desire, the old trauma battling new possibility. "I care about you too," she said finally, the admission feeling both dangerous and necessary. "But Dawson, I am scared of needing you, scared of what happens if this falls apart, scared of becoming dependent on someone again." "I am not asking for dependence. I am asking for partnership, for the chance to stand beside you, not in front of you or behind you." He met her eyes. "And I am patient, Clara. Whatever pace you need, whatever boundaries you require, I will respect them. I just need you to know that I am here because I choose to be, not because I pity you or want to rescue you, because I have never met anyone quite like you, and I do not want to let that go without exploring what it could become." The words settled over her like a blanket, warm and terrifying. Clara thought about Maya's drawing, about including Dawson in their family picture, about the way he pushed her daughter on swings and listened to rambling 6-year-old stories, and made Clara laugh when she thought she had forgotten how. "I cannot promise anything beyond today," she said carefully, "not until the custody situation is resolved. Not until I know Maya is safe. Today is enough." They sat together in companionable silence, hands linked, watching the stars emerge one by one. Inside, Maya's movie played to its happy ending, the predictable resolution of children's stories where good always triumphed and families stayed together. Clara envied the simplicity, even as she recognized its necessity. Children needed to believe in happy endings. Adults had to fight for them. "If I win custody," Clara said suddenly, surprising herself, "if Maya stays with me and life settles into something resembling normal, would you want to keep doing this, being part of our lives?" "Every day," Dawson said without hesitation, "if you will have me. Even though I am difficult and traumatized and terrified of commitment, especially because of that. Because it means when you do commit, when you do let someone in, it is real and chosen and brave." He smiled, soft and sincere. "I do not want easy, Clara. I want true. And this, right here, feels truer than anything I have experienced in years." Clara leaned against his shoulder, allowing herself the comfort of his presence, the steadiness of his support. Tomorrow would bring more anxiety, more waiting, more uncertainty. But tonight, on this small porch with this unexpected man, she could be simply herself, afraid and hopeful, broken and healing, alone and accompanied. "Thank you," she whispered, "for staying, for choosing us. Thank you for letting me." They remained there until Maya called from inside, demanding her mother's attention, and Clara rose to return to her daughter. But she looked back at Dawson, still sitting on the porch, his expression peaceful in a way she had not seen before, like he had found something he did not know he was searching for. Like maybe, just maybe, they were saving each other. The third hearing felt different from the start, tension crackling in the courtroom air like static before a storm. Robert Chen had promised new evidence, and Clara sat beside Jennifer with mounting dread, waiting for the next blow to fall. It came in the form of photographs. "Your Honor," Robert Chen began, approaching the bench with a manila envelope, "we would like to submit evidence regarding Mrs. Evans's relationship with Dawson Blackwood and its potential impact on Maya's welfare." Jennifer objected immediately. "Relevance, Your Honor. Clara's personal relationships are not germane to her parenting ability." "They are when they demonstrate poor judgment," Robert Chen countered smoothly. He began distributing copies of photographs. Clara's stomach dropped as she saw them. Her and Dawson at the restaurant where they first had dinner, at the park, his hand on Maya's shoulder, outside her cottage, visible through the window, sitting together on the couch. "These photographs demonstrate a pattern of behavior," Robert Chen continued. "Mrs. Evans met Mr. Blackwood approximately 8 weeks ago under questionable circumstances. Within days, she had introduced him to her daughter and began a romantic relationship. Mr. Blackwood is worth billions of dollars, Your Honor. The timing of this relationship, coinciding precisely with the custody filing, raises obvious questions about Mrs. Evans's motivations. The implication hung in the air, ugly and poisonous, gold digger, opportunist, woman using her daughter's predicament to secure a wealthy benefactor. Furthermore, Robert Chen produced more documents. Mr. Blackwood has connections to Clara's attorney through his friend Thomas Bradford. He has been present at court hearings, visibly supporting Mrs. Evans. One must question whether financial influence has played a role in the legal representation she has somehow managed to secure despite her financial limitations. Objection. Jennifer was on her feet. Counsel is engaging in character assassination and conspiracy theories without evidence. I am presenting facts for the court's consideration, Robert Chen said calmly. Judge Morrison studied the photographs, her expression unreadable. Mr. Chen, do you have evidence that Mr. Blackwood has provided financial support to Mrs. Evans? Not direct evidence, but the circumstantial pattern is compelling. Circumstantial is not sufficient. However, I am concerned about the rapid pace of this relationship and its potential impact on Maya. The judge looked at Clara. Mrs. Evans, I would like to hear from you directly. Please take the stand. Clara's legs felt like water as she rose, crossed to the witness stand and swore to tell the truth. Jennifer gave her an encouraging nod, but Clara felt exposed, vulnerable under the judge's scrutiny and Daniel's smirking gaze. Mrs. Evans, Judge Morrison began, her tone not unkind but firm, tell me about your relationship with Mr. Blackwood. We are friends. We met at an art gallery. He has been supportive during this difficult time. Clara's voice shook despite her efforts to steady it, and the nature of this support. Emotional support. He listens. He is kind to Maya. He has not given me money or paid for anything beyond coffee. But he connected you with your attorney through Thomas Bradford, did he not? He made an introduction. But Mr. Bradford took my case on contingency because he believed in it, not because Dawson paid him. You understand how this appears. A wealthy man appearing in your life precisely when you need financial resources to fight a custody battle. I understand how it can be twisted, Clara said, feeling anger kindle beneath the fear. But that is not what happened. I did not seek Dawson out for his money. I did not know who he was when we met. I did not ask him for financial help, and he has not offered it. Yet he has been present in your home, around your daughter, during this tumultuous time. Is that wise? Is it wise to show my daughter that there are good men in the world, that not everyone is like her father? Clara felt her voice rise, emotion breaking through. Your Honor, Dawson Blackwood treats Maya with kindness and respect. He has been a stabilizing presence, not a disruptive one. If that is poor judgment, then I am guilty as charged, but I will not apologize for allowing someone good into our lives when we desperately needed goodness. Judge Morrison held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded. You may step down. Jennifer called Dawson next, and Clara watched him take the stand with quiet dignity. He answered questions honestly about how they met, the gallery incident with Daniel, his growing friendship with Clara and Maya. He confirmed that he had not provided financial support beyond small gestures like coffee. Mr. Blackwood, Robert Chen said during cross-examination, his tone sharp, you are worth approximately $2.3 billion. Is that correct? That is the estimated value of my assets, yes. And yet you expect this court to believe you have not used those resources to help Mrs. Evans in her custody battle. I have not, because she would not allow it. Clara is fiercely independent. She would reject any offer of financial assistance, and she has, how convenient, a billionaire who does not use his wealth to influence outcomes. I use my wealth to empower people, not control them, Dawson said evenly. There is a significant difference. The testimony continued, but Clara felt the damage was done. She saw how Judge Morrison looked at them, the skepticism in her eyes. The photographs, the timing, the wealth disparity, it all painted a picture that was not quite true, but close enough to seem plausible. During recess, Clara stood in the hallway, feeling like she was watching her life implode in slow motion. Jennifer tried to reassure her, but the words felt hollow. Daniel walked past, his smirk knowing and victorious. You always were good at playing the victim, he said quietly. just for her ears. But the judge sees through it now. Clara did not respond, did not give him the satisfaction, but inside she was screaming. Dawson found her in the bathroom hallway, her face pressed against the cool wall, trying to breathe through the panic attack, threatening to consume her. "Clara, he is winning!" Her voice was raw. "He is making my happiness look like manipulation. He is taking the one good thing I have found and twisting it into something ugly." "No, he is not winning. He is desperate." Dawson's hand settled on her back, warm and grounding. "If he was winning, he would not need to resort to these tactics. You do not know that. I know that truth matters. I know that your love for Maya is evident to anyone with eyes. I know that you have done nothing wrong." He turned her gently to face him. "And I know that 2 weeks from now, when the final hearing comes, Jennifer is going to present evidence that will end this. You just have to hold on a little longer. What if I cannot? Then I will hold you until you can." Clara looked at him. This man whose presence in her life had become both comfort and complication, and felt something crack inside her. "I am ruining your reputation. Daniel's attorney is implying you are some kind of sugar daddy, that you are corrupt, that you are influencing the case with money. Let him imply whatever he wants. My reputation can weather this. The question is, can you? I do not know anymore." They stood together in the courthouse hallway, people passing by with their own legal dramas, their own custody battles and divorces and desperate fights for their children. Clara was not alone in her suffering, but that knowledge brought little comfort. The afternoon session was procedural, setting the date for the final hearing in 2 weeks. Judge Morrison made it clear this would be the decisive moment, the culmination of all evidence and testimony. Clara left the courthouse feeling like she was walking toward an execution date, each day bringing her closer to potential devastation. That night, alone in her cottage after Maya was asleep, Clara allowed herself to cry, great, heaving sobs that felt like they might tear her apart. This was supposed to get better. She was supposed to be winning. But instead, she felt like she was drowning, pulled under by currents she could not fight. Her phone rang. Dawson. She almost did not answer, but loneliness won over pride. "I am sorry," she said instead of hello. "For today, for all of it. You have nothing to apologize for. I am destroying your reputation. I'm making you look like a villain when all you have been is kind." "Clara, stop." His voice was firm but gentle. "My reputation is built on 30 years of philanthropic work. One custody case is not going to undo that. And even if it did, it would be worth it." "How can you say that?" "Because some things matter more than reputation. Some people matter more." He paused. "Let me come over, please, just to sit with you. You should not be alone right now." Clara wanted to say no, wanted to protect him from the disaster her life had become. But the need for his presence was stronger than her pride. "Okay." He arrived within 20 minutes, and they sat together on her small couch, not talking, just existing in each other's space. It was enough. For tonight, it was everything. Tomorrow would bring more fighting, more accusations, more desperate attempts to paint her as unfit. But tonight, she had this moment of peace in the storm. This man who stayed when leaving would have been easier. This stubborn hope that maybe, somehow, love really could be enough, even when everything else felt impossible. The next evening, Clara sat at her kitchen table surrounded by legal documents, reviewing everything for the 100th time, searching for some angle Jennifer might have missed. The final hearing loomed, a week away, and anxiety had become her constant companion. A knock at the door startled her. Through the window, she could see Dawson's silhouette. She had not been expecting him, but his presence was always welcome, a lifeline in turbulent waters. "I am sorry to come by unannounced," he said when she opened the door, "but I have been thinking about something, and I wanted to discuss it with you." Clara stepped back, letting him in. Maya was at a playdate with a friend, giving them rare privacy. What is it? Dawson seemed nervous, a state she had rarely seen him in. He sat at the kitchen table, gesturing for her to join him. I have been doing some thinking about the custody battle, about the financial disparities Daniel keeps highlighting. Clara's stomach tightened. Dawson, just hear me out, please. He took a breath. I could help, really help. I could hire the best custody attorney in the state, someone with resources that Jennifer, good as she is, cannot match. We could bury Daniel's case in evidence, expert witnesses, legal maneuvers. I could make this go away, Clara. The words hung in the air, tempting and terrifying. Clara felt something cold settle in her chest. How? I would do it anonymously. Through the foundation, Daniel would never know the money came from me. You could maintain your independence while having the resources to fight him properly. Anonymously. Clara's voice felt distant, detached. So I would be in debt to you, but secretly. It would not be debt, it would be a gift. No strings, no expectations. There are always strings, Dawson, always. Clara stood, pacing away from him, needing distance. Do you have any idea what you are suggesting? That I let you buy your way into my life? That I become your charity case? That is not what this is. Then what is it? Explain to me how this is different from what Daniel did. Clara felt the panic rising, old wounds tearing open. He helped me too, you know, paid my rent when I could not, bought me things, made me feel like I could not survive without him. And every single kindness became a chain, Dawson. Every gift was a reminder that I was not enough on my own. I'm not Daniel. No, you are worse. The words exploded out of her, sharp and cruel, because at least Daniel was honest about wanting control. You hide it under kindness and concern, and making me feel like you respect my independence. But this is control, Dawson, wrapped in a prettier package, but control all the same. Dawson stood, his expression stricken. That is not my intention. I'm trying to help you. By making me dependent on you, by solving my problems with your money. How is that help, Dawson? How is that not just another cage, even if it is gilded? Because I'm offering you a choice. You can say no. Can I? Clara laughed bitterly. Can I really, when saying no might mean losing my daughter? When turning down your help might be the difference between keeping Maya and losing her? Tears streamed down her face now, hot and accusatory. That is not a choice, Dawson. That is coercion disguised as generosity. Clara, please. He reached for her, but she stepped back, putting the table between them. I thought you were different. I thought you understood what it was like to need help without losing yourself. But you are just like all the others, are you not? Seeing a problem and throwing money at it, never mind what it costs the person you are supposedly helping. That is not fair. Fair? Clara's voice broke. Nothing about this is fair. Daniel gets to use his money as a weapon, and you want to use yours as a shield, but you are both using me as the battleground. And I am so tired, Dawson. So tired of being the powerless one, the one who needs saving, the one who cannot fight her own battles. I know you can fight your own battles. I'm just offering you better weapons. I do not want your weapons. I need... Clara collapsed into the chair, her rage giving way to despair. I need to do this myself. Even if I lose, even if it destroys me, I need to know I fought my own fight. Because if I win with your money, I will never know if it was my love or your power that made the difference. Do you understand that? Dawson was silent for a long moment, his face pale. I am trying to understand. But Clara, pride should not come before Maya's welfare. This is not pride. This is survival. This is me refusing to be owned by anyone ever again, even someone as kind as you. She looked up at him, letting him see her devastation. If you help me this way, if you swoop in and save me with your billions, I will never be free. Not from Daniel, not from you, not from anyone. I will always be the woman who could not manage on her own. No one manages on their own. We all need help sometimes. But there is a difference between accepting help and being rescued, between partnership and paternalism, and what you are offering, however well-intentioned, is rescue. It is you deciding you know better than I do what I need, and I will not accept that. Not from you, not from anyone. Dawson sank back into his chair, looking lost. Then what do you want me to do? Stand by and watch you struggle? Pretend I do not have resources that could help? I want you to trust me. Clara's voice was quiet now. All the fire burned out. I want you to believe that I am strong enough and smart enough and capable enough to fight this battle with the resources I have. I want you to see me as an equal partner, not someone who needs your money to survive. I do see you that way. Then why are you offering to buy my victory? The question hung between them, unanswerable. Dawson looked at his hands, at the table, anywhere but at her. Because I am terrified, he admitted finally. Terrified that Daniel will win, that you will lose Maya, that I will have stood by with all this power and done nothing. My father used his wealth as a weapon his entire life. I swore I would be different, that I would use what I have to help people. But you are right. There is a difference between empowerment and rescue, and I do not know how to help without taking over. It is all I have ever known. Clara felt something soften despite the hurt. Then learn, Dawson. Learn to stand beside me instead of in front of me. Learn to ask what I need instead of deciding for me. Learn that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is respect someone's right to fight their own battles, even when it terrifies you. And if you lose, then we figure out what comes next, together, as partners. But Dawson, if you take this fight away from me, if you make it about your money instead of my love, we are done. Because I cannot be with someone who sees me as a problem to solve, instead of a person to stand beside. The ultimatum was clear. Dawson absorbed it, pain etched across his features. I am sorry, he said finally. You are right. I overstepped. I let my fear override your agency. It will not happen again. Promise me. Clara's voice was fierce. Promise me you will not interfere, will not use your money to influence this case, will not try to rescue me. Promise me you will just be there, as my friend, my partner, whatever this is, but not as my savior. I promise. Dawson met her eyes, his expression raw. But Clara, can I ask you something? If you do need help, if the situation becomes desperate, will you tell me? Will you give me the chance to support you in ways you can accept? Or are you so committed to independence that you would rather lose everything than ask for help? The question cut deep because it was valid. Clara thought about it, about the line between healthy independence and self-destructive pride. I will ask, she said finally. If I need help I can accept, I will ask. But Dawson, if I do not ask, you have to respect that. You have to trust that I know my own limits. I can do that. They sat in silence. The crisis passed, but its aftershock still reverberating. Clara felt hollowed out, exhausted by the emotional intensity. Dawson looked similarly drained, his usual composure shattered. I should go, he said quietly. Give you space. Yes, I think that is best. He stood, hesitated at the door. Clara, I do see you as an equal. I hope you know that. Everything I do, every impulse to help, it comes from caring, not from thinking you are less than me. I know, but caring is not enough if it comes with strings, even invisible ones. Dawson nodded, accepting this truth, and left. Clara listened to his car pull away, then collapsed onto the couch, emotionally shattered. She had just pushed away the best thing in her life, but she had also drawn a line that could not be uncrossed. She would fight this battle on her own terms, with Jennifer's help, with Rachel's support, with Sarah's newfound presence. But not with Dawson's money, not with anyone's charity or pity or well-meaning rescue. If she won, it would be her victory. If she lost, well, at least she would lose with her dignity intact. The thought was cold comfort as Clara curled up on the couch, alone in her small cottage, and cried for what might have been, for the relationship that could not survive the collision of his privilege and her trauma, for the future she had briefly let herself imagine. But mostly she cried for Maya, sleeping safely in her room, oblivious to the fact that her mother had just sacrificed a lifeline out of pride or principle, or some combination of both. "Please let me be right," Clara whispered into the darkness. "Please let this be enough." No answer came, just silence, and the weight of choices that could not be unmade, and the terrible knowledge that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was refuse to be saved, even when you desperately needed saving. The night after pushing Dawson away, Clara did not sleep. She sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by legal documents that blurred together into meaningless words, and faced the reality of what she had done. In 8 days, she would walk into that courtroom for the final hearing. Jennifer would present their case with the resources they had. Daniel would present his with everything money could buy. And Clara would face the judge knowing she had rejected the one advantage that might have made a difference. Pride, she thought bitterly, or principle, or stupidity. The line between them had become impossible to distinguish. Her phone sat silent on the table. No calls from Dawson. No texts. She had told him to stay away, and he was respecting her wishes. The absence felt like a wound that would not close. Rachel arrived at dawn, letting herself in with the spare key Clara had given her years ago. She took one look at Clara's face and pulled her into a fierce embrace. "You look terrible. I feel worse." Clara's voice was hoarse from crying. "I pushed him away, Rachel. I told him I would rather lose Maya than accept his help." "Did you mean it?" Clara pulled back, startled by the question. "What? Did you mean it? Would you rather lose your daughter than let someone help you?" Rachel's dark eyes were kind but unflinching. "Because, Clara, there is a difference between maintaining your independence and cutting off your nose to spite your face. He wanted to hire me an expensive attorney to solve my problem with his money. And you saw Daniel," Rachel said gently. "You saw every time he helped you and then used it as a weapon. I understand that, Clara, but honey, Dawson is not Daniel. You know that, right?" "Do I?" Clara sank back into her chair, exhausted. "How can I know? Daniel seemed kind at first too. Helpful, generous. It was only later that every kindness became a chain. Because you are looking for the pattern instead of seeing the person." Rachel sat across from her, reaching for Clara's hands. "Dawson has been in your life for 2 months. In that time, has he ever made you feel obligated? Has he ever held his help over your head? Has he ever demanded anything in return for his support? No, but no buts. Either he has or he has not." Rachel squeezed her hands. "Clara, independence is important. I get that. But do you know what is more important? Maya and your own happiness. If accepting help from someone who loves you means you can keep your daughter and build a life, is your pride really worth sacrificing that? It is not pride. It is survival." "No, honey. Survival is doing whatever it takes to protect your child. Pride is refusing help because you are too scared to be vulnerable again." Rachel's voice gentled. "And I say that with all the love in my heart. You have been hurt, terribly hurt. But you cannot let Daniel's abuse make you so afraid of accepting love that you push away everyone who tries to care for you." Clara felt tears slip down her cheeks. "What if I let Dawson help and then I lose anyway? What if his money is not enough and I end up in debt to him for nothing? Then at least you will know you tried everything, and Dawson will understand because he cares about you, not about being owed." Rachel paused. But Clara, what if you do not let him help and you lose Maya? What if your pride costs you your daughter? Could you live with that? The question hung in the air, sharp and unavoidable. Clara thought about Maya's face, her laughter, her drawings, her complete trust that Mommy would always be there. Could she live with losing that because she was too afraid to accept help? I do not know how to let people in without losing myself, Clara whispered. Daniel taught me that depending on someone meant giving them power over me. Daniel taught you wrong. Healthy relationships are not about power over. They are about power with. Standing together, not one above the other. Rachel stood, pulling Clara up with her. Call him, apologize, ask if his offer still stands, and then make a different choice than fear. What if he does not answer? Then you keep trying until he does. Because, Clara, that man loves you. I saw it in the way he looked at you, the way he was with Maya. He is not going anywhere unless you make him. After Rachel left, Clara stared at her phone for an hour before finding the courage to open it. She typed and deleted a dozen messages before settling on something simple and true. I am sorry. I was wrong. Can we talk? She hit send before she could change her mind, then sat in agonizing silence waiting for a response that might never come. Minutes stretched into an hour. Clara began to accept that she had destroyed something irreparable when her phone finally buzzed. I am sorry too. I overstepped. I should have asked what you needed instead of deciding for you. Can I come over tonight after Maya is asleep? Relief flooded through her, so intense it was almost painful. Yes, please. But the text she had sent went unsent from the night before, still sat in her drafts folder, the one she had written in her darkest moment. Please forgive me. I'm scared and broken, and I do not know how to be loved without being owned. I'm sorry for pushing you away when all you were trying to do was help me fight. She deleted it now. Some truths were better spoken face to face. Meanwhile, across the city, Dawson Blackwood sat in his penthouse surrounded by art he barely saw and thought about the moment his life had divided into before Clara and after. Before, he had been drifting, disconnected, using his wealth as a barrier between himself and genuine human connection. After, he had found purpose, presence, a reason to be more than just his father's fortune and his mother's regrets. And he had nearly destroyed it by doing exactly what his father would have done, throwing money at a problem, trying to control the outcome, deciding he knew better than Clara what she needed. Tom Bradford found him staring out at the city, a glass of whiskey untouched in his hand. You look like someone died. Worse, I nearly became my father. Tom settled into a chair, waiting. Dawson had called him an hour earlier, desperate for perspective, and Tom had dropped everything to come. That was the measure of true friendship. Clara was right, Dawson said finally. About everything, I was trying to rescue her, not empower her. I was using my money to control the outcome because I was terrified of being powerless. He turned from the window. My father did that his entire life, used his wealth as a hammer, breaking people into shapes that suited him. And I swore I would be different, that I would use what I have to help people, not dominate them. But what I offered Clara was not help. It was dominance dressed up as charity. Your intentions were good. Intentions are not enough. My father thought his intentions were good too. He thought he was protecting my mother by making all her decisions, controlling her money, deciding who she could see and where she could go. He called it love, but it was just another kind of prison. Dawson sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. I have been so afraid of using power like he did that I barely use it at all. I write checks from a distance. I approve programs without getting involved. I live in this tower and pretend that abstract charity makes me a good person. It does make you a good person. No, it makes me a coward, a rich coward who is terrified of his own shadow. Dawson met his friend's eyes. But Clara, is not a shadow. She's real and fierce and terrified, and she's about to lose her daughter because I do not know how to help without controlling. So what are you going to do? Dawson was quiet for a long moment, thinking about power and how to use it ethically, thinking about his father's hammer and his own paralysis, thinking about Clara's words, "I need to do this myself. Even if I lose, I need to know I fought my own fight." "I am going to give her the tools," he said slowly, an idea crystallizing. "Not take over the battle, but arm her for it. Let her be the warrior while I provide the weapons. Is that power with instead of power over? Depends on the weapons and how you offer them." Daniel has been able to manipulate Clara for so long because he controls the narrative, controls the information, makes her feel like she is crazy or wrong. But what if that is not true? What if Daniel has his own secrets, his own vulnerabilities? Dawson leaned forward. "I could investigate him, really investigate. Use my resources to find the truth about who he is, what he has done, and then give that information to Clara. Let her decide what to do with it. That is risky. If it looks like you are using your money to dig up dirt on her ex, it could backfire. Not if I do it right. Not if I give her the choice." Dawson felt energy return, purpose clarifying. "I'm not trying to solve her problem. I'm giving her information she does not have access to. What she does with it is entirely up to her." Tom considered this, then nodded slowly. That could work. "But Dawson, if you are going to do this, do it all the way. No half measures. If Daniel has skeletons, find them all. I have a private investigator I have used for Foundation due diligence. Michael Torres. Discreet and thorough. Can you recommend someone for the legal angle? Someone who can look into Daniel's business practices without it being traced back to Clara or me?" "I know someone, but this is going to take time, and the final hearing is next week." "Then we work fast." Dawson pulled out his phone, already making lists. "Michael can start immediately. We have 8 days. If there is something to find, we will find it, and if there is not, then Clara fights with what she has, and I stand beside her accepting the outcome. But Tom, I have met Daniel Thompson. I have seen how he operates. Men like him do not build their lives on honesty. There is something there. I just need to find it." After Tom left, Dawson sat alone in his penthouse and thought about cages. The golden cage of his father's wealth, trapping him in passive philanthropy. The cage of his mother's silent suffering, teaching him that power always corrupts. The cage of his own fear, keeping him from truly engaging with the world. And Clara, standing outside the courthouse, refusing his money, choosing her own path even when it terrified her. That took a kind of courage Dawson was only beginning to understand. His phone buzzed. Clara's text message glowed on the screen, and Dawson felt something inside him unlock. She was giving him another chance. He would not waste it, but this time he would do it right. This time he would trust her to fight her own battle. He would just make sure she had all the information she needed to win it. Power with, not power over. Partnership, not paternalism. It was a lesson his father had never learned. But Dawson was not his father. And with Clara's help, maybe he could finally become the man his mother had hoped he would be. Someone who used his resources to empower others, not control them. Someone who stood beside people in their fights instead of fighting for them. Someone who understood that the greatest gift you could give someone was not solving their problems, but trusting them to solve their own. Dawson picked up his phone and called Michael Torres. "I need you to investigate someone, thoroughly, discreetly, and I need it done in 7 days. That is a tight timeline." "I know, but it is important. And Michael, whatever you find, however ugly, I need the truth. All of it." "Understood. Who am I investigating?" "A man named Daniel Thompson, real estate agent in Austin. And Michael, this one matters. Do not hold back. After the call, Dawson sat in the growing darkness and allowed himself to hope. Not that he could save Clara, but that he could give her the power to save herself. It was a small distinction, but it made all the difference. 7 days. That was all the time Dawson had, and he used every minute of it. Michael Torres worked with the intensity of a man on a mission, digging into Daniel Thompson's life with forensic precision. What he found was a portrait of a man who had built his entire existence on manipulation and fraud. The real estate license was legitimate, but the business practices were anything but. Falsified documents, inflated appraisals. Properties sold to elderly clients at prices far above market value, with Daniel pocketing the difference through shell companies. First-time buyers steered toward predatory loans that Daniel received kickbacks for recommending. A trail of complaints filed with the state board, all mysteriously withdrawn or dismissed. He pays people off, Michael explained during their 4th meeting. Clients who threatened to expose him suddenly drop their complaints. I found 3 different cases where his mother, Patricia Thompson, wrote checks to the complainants. She has been funding his corruption for years. Can you prove it? I have bank records showing the transfers, email chains, recorded phone calls where Daniel discusses the payoffs. Michael set down a thick folder. This man is a criminal, Dawson. He should be in prison. But he is not. No. Because he is careful, and he has money, and the system is broken. Michael's expression was grim. But if this information went to the right people, if someone filed a formal complaint with documentation, the state licensing board would have no choice but to investigate, and once they start digging, the whole thing falls apart. Dawson absorbed this, thinking about power and how to wield it responsibly. What about the custody case? Is there anything that relates directly to Daniel as a father? That is where it gets interesting. Michael pulled out another file. Daniel's financials show he has been living beyond his means for years. The expensive attorney, the custody battle, the gifts he has been giving Maya, it is all funded by his mother. He barely has $2,000 in his personal accounts. Everything else is loans from Patricia or money from his fraudulent deals. So he is broke. Worse, he is leveraged to the point of collapse. If the licensing board investigates, his whole financial house of cards comes down. He loses his license, his income, his ability to fight for custody. Michael met Dawson's eyes. This is what you wanted, right? Leverage. Not for me, for Clara. Dawson took the files, feeling their weight both literal and metaphorical. This information gives her power over Daniel. The choice of what to do with it. Just be careful how you present it. This is explosive material. In the wrong hands, it could destroy lives. In the right hands, it could save one. Dawson thought about Clara, about Maya, about a 6-year-old girl who deserved better than a father who saw her as a trophy. Thank you, Michael. Send me the final report and your bill. No bill. This one is on the house. Michael, I have a daughter, Michael said quietly, and an ex-wife who tried to use the courts against me when I left her. So I know what it is like, being powerless against someone with resources. If this helps keep a kid with the parent who actually loves her, that is payment enough. After Michael left, Dawson sat with the files for hours, reading every page, understanding the magnitude of what he held. This was not just leverage. This was a nuclear option. If Clara used this information the right way, Daniel would have no choice but to withdraw the custody suit and disappear from their lives. But if she used it wrong, if it looked like she was blackmailing him, it could backfire spectacularly. He needed to give this to her in a way that made it clear the choice was entirely hers. No pressure, no expectations, no strings, just information and trust. The final hearing was in 3 days. Tonight, he would see Clara for the first time since their fight, and he would give her the tools to win her battle, then step back and let her wield them as she saw fit. Tom had cautioned him that this was still a form of intervention, that he was still using his resources to influence the outcome. But there was a difference, Dawson had argued. He was not fighting Clara's battle. He was giving her information she had the right to know. What she did with it was her choice alone. Just make sure she sees it that way, Tom had said, because if she thinks you are trying to control her again, you will lose her for good. Dawson understood the risk, but he also understood something more important. Clara deserved to know the truth about the man who was trying to take her daughter. She deserved to fight with all the facts, not just the ones Daniel wanted her to see. And if giving her that information meant risking their relationship, it was a risk worth taking. Because loving Clara meant trusting her to make her own choices, even when those choices terrified him, even when he wanted desperately to swoop in and fix everything, even when every instinct screamed at him to use his power to guarantee her victory. Power with not power over, partnership, not paternalism. Dawson repeated the words like a mantra, preparing himself for the conversation ahead. He would give Clara the files, he would explain what they contained, and then he would give her the most important thing of all, the choice, what to do with the information, whether to use it, how to wield it. All of it would be her decision. He would not advise, would not pressure, would not even suggest a course of action. He would simply trust that Clara knew better than he did what she needed. It was the hardest thing Dawson had ever done, this letting go of control, but it was also the most important. Because if he could not trust Clara to make her own choices, then everything he felt for her was built on the same paternalistic foundation his father had used to justify controlling his mother. And Dawson refused to be his father, not anymore, not ever again. Clara opened the door at 8 o'clock after Maya was asleep, and found Dawson standing on her small porch holding a large envelope and looking more nervous than she had ever seen him. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," he said. "Thank you for coming." Clara stepped back, letting him enter. They settled in the small living room, the space between them feeling vast and fragile. "Dawson, let me go first, please." He took a breath. "I have been doing a great deal of thinking since our fight, about power, about control, about the difference between helping and dominating. And Clara, you were right, about all of it. I was trying to rescue you because I was terrified of being powerless. I was using my money to control the outcome because that is what I know how to do. And that is not partnership. That is just another form of cage. Dawson, I am not finished." He smiled sadly. "I have spent my entire adult life trying not to be my father. He used his wealth as a weapon, controlling everyone around him, especially my mother. So I went the opposite direction. I hid behind the foundation, writing checks from a distance, never getting involved enough to risk hurting anyone. But that is not strength, Clara. That is cowardice. And you deserve better than my cowardice." Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to be your partner, not your rescuer, not your solution, your partner. Someone who stands beside you while you fight your own battles." He held up the envelope. "And I want to give you something. Not because I think you need me to solve your problems, but because I have information you deserve to know. What you do with it is entirely your choice." "What is it?" "The truth about Daniel." Dawson set the envelope on the coffee table between them, not pushing it toward her, just making it available. "I hired a private investigator. I know you said you did not want my help, but I thought you had the right to know who you are really fighting against. So I had Daniel investigated, thoroughly." Clara stared at the envelope, afraid to touch it. "What did you find?" "Fraud, years of it. Falsified real estate documents, inflated appraisals, elder abuse through property scams, his mother funding his lifestyle and his legal bills, bank records, email chains, recorded phone calls, Everything you would need to file a formal complaint with the state licensing board. Dawson leaned forward. Clara, if this information reaches the right people, Daniel loses his license, his income, his ability to fund the custody battle, everything. So you are giving me blackmail material. No, I am giving you information. What you do with it is up to you. His grey eyes held hers, intense and earnest. You could go to the authorities. You could use it to force Daniel to withdraw the custody suit. You could burn it and never mention it again. The choice is entirely yours. I am not telling you what to do. I'm not pressuring you. I'm simply giving you information you have the right to know, and then trusting you to make the best decision. Clara reached for the envelope with shaking hands. Why would you do this? After how I treated you, after the things I said. Because you were right about those things. I was trying to control you, not consciously, not maliciously, but the effect was the same. Dawson's voice was gentle. My father spent his life using power to dominate others. I was so terrified of doing the same thing that I barely use my power at all. But you taught me there is a third way. Using power to empower others, giving people information and choice instead of taking over their battles. This is still intervention. Yes, but it is intervention that respects your agency. I did the investigating, but you make all the choices. I provided the information, but you decide how to use it. He stood, preparing to leave. Read it or do not read it. Use it or burn it. I trust you to know what is right, and Clara, whatever you decide, I will support you. Not because I am trying to be your hero, but because I believe in you, in your strength, your wisdom, your ability to protect your daughter. Clara stood too, clutching the envelope. Stay, please, at least until I look at this. Dawson hesitated, then nodded and sat back down. Clara opened the envelope with trembling fingers and began to read. With each page, her disbelief grew. The scope of Daniel's fraud, the manipulation, the elderly victims, the predatory practices, the emails where he discussed buying people's silence, the bank records showing his mother's money funding his entire life. He is a monster, she whispered. He is a criminal. But Clara, that does not automatically make you a hero for exposing him. That is not why I am giving you this. Dawson moved to sit beside her, close but not touching. I'm giving you this because you deserve to fight with all the facts, because Daniel has been controlling the narrative, making you feel crazy and inadequate and wrong, but you are not any of those things, and now you have proof. Clara looked up at him through tears. What do I do with this? I cannot tell you that. It has to be your choice. But what would you do? It does not matter what I would do. It matters what you need, what serves Maya's best interests, what lets you sleep at night. Dawson touched her face gently, wiping away a tear. I can tell you what your options are, but the decision has to be yours. Clara thought about power and how to use it, about Daniel's cruelty, his manipulation, the way he had made her feel small and helpless for years. About the elderly people he had scammed, the lives he had damaged, about Maya, who deserved better than a father who saw her as property. I want to use this, she said finally, not for revenge, for protection, to make sure he withdraws the custody suit and stays away from us. Is that wrong? No, it is strategic. Dawson smiled slightly. You are not blackmailing him. You are giving him a choice. Withdraw the suit or face the legal consequences of his actions. That is justice, not revenge. Will you help me? Not do it for me, but help me figure out how to approach this. Of course. We can call Jennifer in the morning, plan the strategy together. This is your battle, Clara. I'm just helping you sharpen your sword. Clara laughed through her tears, then did something she had been too afraid to do before. She kissed him, not out of panic or desperation or need, but out of gratitude and choice and the beginning of trust. Dawson kissed her back, his arms coming around her, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Clara felt something that might have been hope. "Thank you," she whispered against his lips, "for trusting me, for giving me the power instead of taking it. Thank you for teaching me the difference." Dawson pulled back, cupping her face. "Clara, I love you. I need you to know that. Not because I want to rescue you or own you or fix you, but because you are brave and fierce and beautiful, because you make me want to be better than I am, because when I am with you, I finally understand what it means to use power ethically." "I love you too," Clara said, the words feeling both terrifying and necessary. "I am scared of it. I am scared of needing you, but I love you. Then let's be scared together, and let's win this fight." Together, they sat together on Clara's small couch, the evidence of Daniel's fraud spread between them, and planned how to use information as a weapon. Not to destroy, but to protect. Not for revenge, but for justice. Not to control Daniel, but to free themselves from his control. It was power used responsibly, power shared between partners, power that empowered instead of dominated. And for the first time, Clara understood that accepting help did not mean giving up control. It meant sharing the burden, building something stronger than either person could create alone. Tomorrow, they would call Jennifer and Tom. They would strategize, prepare, decide the best way to approach Daniel with this information. But tonight, they allowed themselves to breathe, to hope, to believe that maybe, just maybe, love and justice could coexist. That sometimes the sword was mightier than the checkbook, and that the greatest power of all was trusting someone else to wield it. The meeting took place not in a courtroom, but in Jennifer Walsh's office, a neutral space chosen specifically to avoid the theatrics of legal proceedings. Daniel and Robert Chen sat on one side of the conference table, confident and dismissive. Clara, Jennifer, and Tom Bradford sat on the other, the thick folder of evidence between them like a loaded weapon. Dawson had offered to attend, but Clara had declined. This was her battle. He had given her the sword. Now she would wield it. "I appreciate you agreeing to meet," Jennifer began, her voice professional and cool. "My client has some information that we believe warrants private discussion before the final hearing." "I cannot imagine what could be discussed that has not already been addressed in court," Robert Chen said dismissively. "My client has been very clear about his concerns regarding Maya's welfare. Your client has been very clear about many things," Tom Bradford interjected, "including, apparently, his business practices." Daniel's expression flickered, just for a moment. Fear behind the bravado. "I do not know what you are implying." "We are not implying anything." Jennifer opened the folder, pulling out the first page. "Bank records. We are stating facts. For the past 7 years, you have been engaged in systematic real estate fraud, falsified documents, inflated appraisals, elder financial abuse. We have documentation of 18 separate incidents, including emails where you discuss buying the silence of your victims." Robert Chen's face went pale as he scanned the documents. "Where did you get this?" "That is irrelevant. What matters is that we have it, and it is admissible as evidence." Tom leaned forward. "Mr. Thompson, your entire financial foundation is built on illegal activities. If my colleague here files a formal complaint with the Texas Real Estate Commission, you lose your license. If we take this to the DA, you face criminal prosecution, multiple felony counts. You are bluffing." But Daniel's voice shook. "This is blackmail. This is a choice." Clara spoke for the first time, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You can withdraw the custody suit immediately. Sign an agreement that you will not pursue primary custody, that you will abide by our existing arrangement with supervised visitation only, or we file these complaints tomorrow morning and you face the consequences of your actions. You cannot do this." "I can and I will," unless you leave Maya and me alone." Clara met his eyes, seeing him truly for the first time, not as the man who had controlled her, but as a frightened bully whose power was built on lies. "You never wanted Maya. You wanted to punish me for leaving you. But I am not your possession anymore, Daniel, and I am done being afraid of you." Robert Chen was speed-reading the documents, his professional composure cracking. "Daniel, these allegations are serious. If even half of this is true—" "It is all true," Tom said. "We have witnesses prepared to testify, victims ready to come forward. This is not a bluff, and it is not blackmail. It is a woman protecting her child from a man who has proven himself to be corrupt in every area of his life." The silence stretched, taut and terrible. Clara watched Daniel process his options, saw the moment he realized he had no leverage left. His mother's money could not buy his way out of this. His expensive attorney could not argue away documented fraud. He was cornered, and they both knew it. "What exactly are you proposing?" Daniel asked finally, his voice hollow. Jennifer slid a document across the table. "You withdraw the custody petition today. You sign this agreement, acknowledging that Clara will retain primary custody. Your visitation will be supervised, twice a month, at a location of Clara's choosing. You will not pursue any changes to this arrangement for a minimum of 3 years. In exchange, we will not file complaints with the licensing board or the district attorney's office. And if I refuse, then we file everything tomorrow. Your license is revoked within 60 days. Criminal charges follow within 90. You lose your income, your career, and probably your freedom." Tom's voice was matter-of-fact, not threatening, just stating reality. "Those are your options, Mr. Thompson. Choose wisely." Robert Chen had seen enough. He pulled Daniel aside, and they spoke in low, urgent voices. Clara could not hear the words, but she could see the attorney's expression: disgust, resignation, the look of a man abandoning a sinking ship. When they returned to the table, Daniel's face was ashen. "Fine, I will sign." The relief that flooded through Clara was so intense she felt lightheaded. Jennifer produced the agreement, already prepared, and Daniel signed with shaking hands. Robert Chen signed as witness, then immediately excused himself, citing other appointments. Everyone knew he was fleeing a client who had lied to him, potentially exposing him to ethical violations. After they left, Clara sat in stunned silence, staring at the signed document that gave her back her daughter, her life, her freedom. Jennifer and Tom were celebrating quietly, discussing filing the withdrawal with the court, but their voices seemed distant, unreal. "You did it," Jennifer said finally, sitting beside Clara. "You won. We won." Clara looked at her attorney, this woman who had believed her when she had no money to pay. "Thank you for everything. Thank you for fighting. It would have been easier to give up, to let Daniel intimidate you. But you stood your ground, and now Maya gets to stay where she belongs." After Jennifer and Tom left to file the paperwork, Clara walked out into the Austin afternoon and felt the sun on her face like a blessing. She pulled out her phone and called Dawson. "It is done," she said when he answered. "He signed. Maya stays with me." The sound he made was half laugh, half sob. "Clara, I am so proud of you. None of this would have been possible without you. The investigation, the information, the support. You gave me the power to save myself. You always had the power. I just helped you see it." Clara closed her eyes, feeling tears slip free. Happy tears this time, the first she had shed in months. "Can you come over tonight? I want to tell you something in person." "I will be there at 7. Clara spent the afternoon picking up Maya from school, watching her daughter play in the park, breathing in the normalcy of a life no longer under siege. She told Maya that Daddy would not be taking her away, that they would keep living together in their cottage, that everything would be okay. Maya accepted this with 6-year-old resilience, already moving on to more important topics, like whether they could get pizza for dinner. When Dawson arrived that evening, Clara led him to the small back porch and took both his hands. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen without interrupting. Okay, when you gave me that information, when you trusted me to make my own choices, you gave me something more valuable than money. You gave me my agency back. Daniel spent years making me feel like I could not make good decisions, that I needed him to tell me what to do. And then I almost let my trauma make me too afraid to accept any help at all. But you showed me there is a middle path. Partnership. Trusting each other to be strong while also supporting each other's strength. Clara, I am not finished." She smiled through tears. "I love you. Not because you saved me. I saved myself. But because you believed I could. Because you gave me the tools and then stepped back and let me use them. Because you understand that loving someone means respecting their right to fight their own battles, even when it terrifies you to watch. That is real love, Dawson. Not rescue, but partnership. I love you too, so much." Dawson pulled her close, and Clara let herself be held, let herself lean on his strength without fearing it would consume her. "Where do we go from here?" Slowly, carefully, but together. Clara pulled back to look at him. "I am not ready for anything big or dramatic. I need time to heal, to build a life that is really mine. But I would like you to be part of that life, if you still want to be. Every day, for as long as you will have me." They stood together in the gathering dusk, two people who had found each other through crisis and chosen each other through healing. Inside, Maya called for her mother, wanting help with her homework. Dawson smiled and released Clara, understanding that her daughter came first, would always come first. "Go," he said. "Be with her. I will be here when you are ready." Clara kissed him once, soft and promising, then went inside to her daughter. Through the window, she could see Dawson still standing on the porch, looking peaceful in a way she had never seen before, like he had found something he had been searching for his entire life. Like maybe they had both been searching and had somehow, against all odds, found each other. The battle was over, the victory was theirs, and the future, uncertain but hopeful, stretched ahead like a gift they had earned through courage and choice and the willingness to be vulnerable with each other. It was not a fairy tale ending. It was something better. It was real. 2 weeks after the custody agreement was signed, life settled into a rhythm that felt almost surreal in its normalcy. Clara worked on her illustrations, met deadlines, celebrated when her newest book received a positive review in a national publication. Maya thrived in school, her anxiety melting away now that the custody battle was over. Even Daniel's supervised visits went smoothly, though Clara suspected he was simply going through the motions, already planning his exit from fatherhood entirely. Dawson became a regular presence in their lives, but carefully, respectfully. Dinner twice a week, Saturday morning park visits, occasional weeknight movies where Maya would fall asleep on the couch between them. He never pushed for more, never assumed his place, always asking permission and respecting boundaries. Rachel watched this development with approval. "He is good for you. You are smiling again." "I am." Clara could not quite believe it herself. "I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for the other shoe to drop. Maybe there is no other shoe. Maybe some things really do work out." Sarah visited more frequently now, rebuilding the sister relationship that had frayed after their mother's death. She and Dawson got along well, bonding over their shared experience of complicated family legacies. Eleanor, Dawson's sister, came to dinner one evening and instantly charmed Maya with stories about her work as a pediatrician. "Your family is nice," Maya announced after Eleanor left. "Is she going to be my aunt?" Clara and Dawson exchanged glances. "Maybe someday, sweetie," Clara said carefully. "We are taking things slow. Why? You love each other, right?" The bluntness of childhood. Clara smiled despite her embarrassment. Yes, we do. But sometimes grown-ups need time to be sure about big decisions. That is silly. I knew I loved you the second I saw you. Maya yawned, ready for bed. But I guess grown-ups are silly sometimes. After Maya was asleep, Clara and Dawson sat together on the porch, wrapped in jackets against the early winter chill. She is not wrong, Dawson said. We are being silly, cautious. There is a difference. Is there? Or are we so afraid of being hurt that we are not letting ourselves be fully happy? Clara considered this, her head on his shoulder. Maybe both. I am still learning how to trust Dawson, how to believe that this is real and lasting. Be patient with me. Always. He kissed the top of her head. But Clara, I want you to know something. I am not going anywhere. Whether it takes 6 months or 6 years for you to feel ready for more, I will be here, because this, right here, being with you and Maya, is the happiest I have been in my entire life. What about the foundation, your work? Still important, but I am learning balance. I spent so long hiding behind charitable work, keeping myself distant from real connection. You taught me that presence matters. That's showing up for people, being vulnerable. That is where real meaning comes from. He turned to face her. The foundation is what I do. You and Maya are who I am becoming. Clara felt her eyes fill with tears, the good kind. I do not know what I did to deserve you. You kissed a stranger at an art gallery. Best decision you ever made. She laughed. Second best. First was leaving Daniel. Fair point. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge one by one. Inside, Maya slept peacefully, her nightmares finally gone. At the bookstore, Rachel closed up for the night, grateful for the anonymous donation that had saved her business. At the courthouse, a file sat closed, marked "Resolved" in red ink. A custody battle fought and won, a family preserved, a life rebuilt from almost nothing. Clara thought about her parents, wished they could see her now, wished they could know she had survived, had thrived, had become the kind of mother they would be proud of. She thought about all the scared single mothers fighting similar battles, wondered if there was a way to help them the way she had been helped. I have been thinking about something, she said suddenly. The foundation. Does it work with domestic violence survivors, single parents in custody battles? Not specifically. Why? Because I want to help, not just with money, though I know that is important, but with support, with resources, with legal aid. There are so many women like me, Dawson, women who are being manipulated by ex-partners, who cannot afford lawyers, who feel powerless. What if we created a program to help them? Dawson was quiet for a moment, then smiled slowly. That is brilliant. And Clara, I would not be creating it, you would. Your experience, your insight, your understanding of what survivors need, I would just provide the funding. Partnership. Exactly. Power used to empower others. He squeezed her hand. Let us do it. Create something meaningful from all this pain. Turn your trauma into purpose. Clara felt something settle in her chest, a sense of rightness she had not experienced in years. This was how healing worked. Not forgetting the pain, but transforming it into something that helped others. Not being defined by trauma, but using it to create change. The Maya Fund, she said. We could call it that, in honor of what we were fighting for. Perfect. And Clara, this is yours, your vision, your program. I am just the money guy. You are so much more than that. She kissed him, soft and slow and full of promise. You are my partner. In all of it. They remained on the porch until the cold drove them inside, talking about the future, planning the program, imagining all the families they could help. Clara felt something she had almost forgotten existed. Hope. Not naive hope that ignored reality, but hard-won hope built on survival and resilience and the knowledge that good could come from suffering. That night, tucking Maya into bed, Clara looked at her daughter's peaceful face and made a silent promise. She would use everything she had learned, everything she had survived, to help others find their way out of darkness, to show scared single mothers that they were not alone, that there were resources and people who cared and paths forward even when everything seemed impossible. Daniel's abuse would not define her. The custody battle would not break her. Instead, they would be the foundation on which she built something meaningful, something lasting, something that honored all the women fighting similar battles every single day. Power with, not power over. Partnership, not paternalism. Love as empowerment, not rescue. These were the lessons Clara had learned, and now she would teach them to others. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you could do was survive, then turn around and help the next person behind you. That was how change happened. One woman, one family, one battle at a time, and Clara was ready to fight. 6 months later, spring arrived in Austin with the kind of perfect weather that made everything feel possible. Clara stood in Zilker Park watching Maya play soccer, but this time felt different from all the games before, lighter, freer, like the world had finally exhaled after holding its breath for too long. The Maya Fund had launched 3 months earlier, quietly at first, then gaining momentum as word spread. They had helped 11 families so far, providing legal aid, counseling services, and practical support to single parents in custody battles. Clara had testified before the state legislature about needed reforms to family court. Jennifer Walsh had signed on as the fund's lead legal advisor. Tom Bradford mentored young attorneys who wanted to take on pro bono family law cases. It was small, but it was real, and it was growing. "She is getting so good," Sarah said beside Clara, shading her eyes against the sun. Her sister had become a regular presence again, making up for lost years. "Look at that footwork." "She has been practicing with Dawson," Clara smiled, watching her daughter steal the ball and race toward the goal. "He is surprisingly athletic for a billionaire." "He is surprisingly everything for a billionaire." Sarah bumped her shoulder. "When are you going to make it official?" "Make what official?" "Oh, please. The man looks at you like you hung the moon. Maya calls him her almost dad. You are together constantly. What are you waiting for?" Clara did not answer, watching as Maya scored a goal and looked immediately toward her mother for approval. Clara cheered, and Maya's face lit up with joy. That right there. That was what mattered, not timelines or expectations or what other people thought should happen, just her daughter's happiness and her own healing and building something real at their own pace. The game ended, and Maya ran over, sweaty and triumphant. "Did you see, Mommy? 3 goals!" "I saw, sweetheart." "You were amazing." Rachel appeared, having closed the bookstore for the afternoon to watch her honorary niece play. She handed Clara a coffee, already knowing her order by heart. "Big day tomorrow. Are you nervous?" Tomorrow. The community center was hosting an event for the Maya Fund. Clara would speak publicly about her experience for the first time. Donors would attend, including several prominent families Dawson had quietly recruited. It felt important and terrifying in equal measure. "Terrified," Clara admitted. "What if I am not articulate enough? What if people think I am just some bitter ex-wife with an axe to grind? Then they are not listening." Rachel's voice was firm. "Your story matters, Clara, and the work you are doing matters. Do not let fear make you small." Dawson arrived then, straight from a foundation meeting, still wearing his suit. Maya immediately attached herself to his leg, chattering about her goals. He listened with the same focused attention he gave to board presentations, like a 6-year-old soccer game was the most important thing in the world. Because to him, Clara realized it was They walked together toward the parking lot, the strange assembled family they had become. Sarah teasing Dawson about his tie, Rachel making plans for dinner, Maya skipping ahead, already dreaming about ice cream, and Clara in the middle of it all, feeling something she had almost forgotten existed. Peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of love and support and people who chose each other every single day. Not a fairy tale, but something better, something real and messy and beautiful. Clara. Dawson's voice pulled her from her thoughts. Can I talk to you for a minute? Alone. They left Maya with Rachel and Sarah and walked to a quieter section of the park. Dawson seemed nervous, a state she still found endearing even after 6 months of watching him be nervous about various things involving her and Maya. What is wrong? Nothing is wrong. I have been thinking about something, and I wanted to discuss it with you. He took her hand, his palm warm and slightly sweaty. Clara, these past 6 months have been the best of my life. Watching you heal, seeing Maya thrive, building the fun together, it has been everything I never knew I wanted. But just, I want more. If you are ready, if you think Maya is ready. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, but did not open it. This is not a proposal, not yet, but it is a promise. Clara's heart hammered against her ribs. Dawson opened the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a small key pendant. You taught me that power is not about locking people in cages, even gilded ones. It is about giving them keys to their own freedom. This is my promise. I will never try to control you, manipulate you, or own you. I will only love you, stand with you, fight beside you as your equal partner. Clara felt tears slip down her cheeks, the good kind, the healing kind. When you are ready, if you are ever ready, I will ask you properly. But for now, this is me saying I am here. I choose you. I choose Maya. Every single day, for as long as you will have me. Help me put it on, Clara whispered. Dawson's hands shook slightly as he fastened the necklace, his fingers gentle on her neck. Clara turned to face him, touching the small key at her throat. That night in the gallery, I kissed you because I was running from my past. I remember. Today, I'm running toward my future. With you. She kissed him, not desperate or afraid or needing rescue, choosing, loving, promising. I'm not quite ready for proposals and weddings and all of that, but Dawson, I am ready for this, for us, for building a life together. That is all I need to hear. They stood together in the spring sunshine, two broken people who had somehow made each other whole. Maya's voice called from across the park, demanding they come back, and they both laughed. She is getting impatient, Clara said. She is getting brave, like her mother. They walked back hand in hand, and Maya immediately noticed the necklace. That is pretty. Mommy, is it new? It is a gift from Dawson. Do you like it? Maya studied the key pendant with 6-year-old seriousness. What does it unlock? Clara and Dawson exchanged glances, both smiling. Anything I want, Clara said. That is the magic of it. Cool. Maya grabbed Dawson's hand, Clara's hand, connecting them. Can we get ice cream now, to celebrate? Celebrate what? Sarah asked, rejoining them. Mommy's pretty necklace, and my 3 goals, and everything. Maya tugged them toward the parking lot. Come on, slowpokes. Rachel fell into step beside Clara, glancing at the necklace with knowing eyes but saying nothing. Some moments did not need commentary. Some joy was simply understood. At the ice cream shop, Maya ordered her usual elaborate creation. Dawson got Rocky Road. Clara chose mint chocolate chip. Sarah and Rachel shared a sundae, arguing companionably about toppings. It was ordinary and perfect, the kind of moment Clara used to dream about during her darkest days with Daniel. Simple happiness, chosen family, freedom to just exist without fear. Mummy? Maya's voice was sticky with ice cream. Can Dawson come live with us? Clara nearly choked on her cone. What? He's always at our house anyway, and you love him, right? So why does not he just live there?" The entire table went silent. Clara felt heat flood her face. Dawson looked simultaneously terrified and hopeful. Rachel was trying not to laugh. Sarah was not even trying. "That is a very big decision, sweetie," Clara managed. "Grown-ups need time to think about big decisions. But you think about everything forever. Can you not just decide to be happy?" Out of the mouths of babes. Clara looked at Dawson, saw him trying not to smile, and felt something shift inside her. What was she waiting for? Permission to be happy, proof that this would not fall apart, a guarantee that loving him would not end in pain. There were no guarantees. There never would be. But there was this man who had stood beside her through her darkest battles, who had given her power instead of taking it, who loved her daughter as if she were his own, who made her laugh and held her when she cried, and believed in her even when she did not believe in herself. "Not today," Clara said finally, meeting Maya's impatient gaze. "But someday, when we are all ready, okay?" Maya considered this, then nodded. "Okay, but not forever someday. Soon someday." "Soon someday," Clara agreed. Under the table, Dawson found her hand and squeezed. When Clara looked at him, his eyes were shining with tears he was too polite to shed in public. She squeezed back, a silent promise. Soon, not today, but soon. When the time was right, when Maya was ready, when Clara had finished healing enough to believe that happy endings were real and lasting and possible for people like her. But for now, this was enough. Ice cream and laughter and chosen family and a small key resting against her heart. A reminder that she was free, that she had fought her battle and won, that she was strong enough to stand alone but brave enough to stand together. That love, real love, did not trap you. It set you free. And Clara, for the first time in years, was finally truly free. The ice cream melted in the afternoon heat. Maya chatted about her upcoming art show at school. Rachel and Sarah made plans for a sisters' weekend. Dawson listened to it all with quiet contentment, his hand still holding Clara's under the table. This was not a fairy tale. It was better. It was real. Messy and imperfect and beautiful. A life built from broken pieces, stronger for having been shattered and carefully reassembled. Clara touched the key at her throat and smiled. She had unlocked something she did not know she had lost. Hope, trust, the belief that after darkness came light, after pain came healing, after fear came courage, and after survival came living, really, truly living. For the first time in years, Clara was ready to live, not just exist, not just survive, but thrive. To build a life that was hers, shared with people who loved her for who she was, not who they wanted her to be. To raise her daughter in an environment of freedom and choice, and the knowledge that she was worthy of love simply for existing. To stand beside a man who understood that loving her meant respecting her strength, not trying to diminish it. Who knew that partnership was about empowering each other, not controlling each other. Who had given her the greatest gift of all, the choice to save herself. The afternoon sun painted everything gold, and in that light, surrounded by laughter and ice cream, and the simple joy of being together, Clara finally allowed herself to believe in second chances, in healing, in love that did not hurt, in futures built on courage rather than fear. And in the quiet, persistent truth that sometimes, just sometimes, the bravest thing you could do was allow yourself to be happy. Clara had fought for that happiness. She had earned it, and now, finally, she was going to claim it. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment of courage at a time. The battle was won, the healing had begun, and the future, uncertain but bright, stretched ahead like a promise she was finally ready to believe in. This was not the end of Clara's story. It was the beginning. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Leave a like and comment below what you thought of the story. See you in the next video.